Okay, so here we are. All right. First things first, there's a comment I need to address, but welcome everybody to the live stream. Go to my comments here. Let's see here. Okay, so guess I should have brought the comments up beforehand. That would have been smart. Okay, so recently, let's see here, Liangshu had another question related to pronunciation, and we're going to go ahead and cover this really quick at the start here. So he says, would you please address how to differentiate the pronunciations between these words? I can hear the difference when people said them slowly, but not when they spoke fast. And that is a common problem in general, but let's take a look at these. So we have the first pair is odor and older. So the first one is odor. That is going to be a flapped E. Odor, odor. So it's flapped E to which is very difficult. And the next one is almost the same, but instead of a regular O in the first syllable, we're going to do an L-colored O, and it's going to be ol instead of O, ol. So older, older. And that D is still going to be flapped. Because of the L color, it makes it a little more difficult to flap the D, so it may not sound exactly the same, but we're going to do basically the same thing. And actually, I guess if I'm doing this, I should be consistent. Older, okay? So odor, older, odor, older. Hello, Forlorness. Welcome to the live stream. You missed the last one. Yeah, I didn't see you there. But thank you for attending this one. How have things been? I'm just starting off with a recent question from the comments. The next pair is fork and folk. Now this is a different problem. Here, first we have fork, and that's an R-colored O. Shadowing is kind of simple, but annoying to do. Yeah, I know. A lot of this pronunciation stuff is very simple and straightforward. It's just you have to put in the time. But it's totally worth it. It pays off a lot if you're doing it well properly. There's more than one way to do it, but anyway, fork is R-colored O, or fork. Okay, fork. And then folk is an L-colored O instead of an R-colored O. Folk. So or, ol, or, ol. Now, a lot of people will say folk without the L color, and they'll just use a regular O, and that is a perfectly fine variation to make it easier. Okay, so instead of folk, you can say folk, folk. So it's just folk, folk. Okay. So basically, fork is the hard one. And then Forlornness also says, thinking of taking a day off today, kind of burned out since I do it daily. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. In fact, I generally recommend that if you're going to be studying, really consistently and regularly, like every day, you should probably take 1 day a week off. Just like don't listen to the language, don't do anything with the language. Some people don't like that advice, and they say you should do at least a little bit every day. But if you're spending a lot of time, like at least an hour or 2 hours every single day, you need a day off. And when I was doing Spanish really, really actively in the beginning, I had a lot of time, and I was spending 3 or 4 hours a day on Spanish. And so if I didn't take 1 day off, which was usually Sunday, I would get really, really burned out and start hating Spanish. So if you're only doing like 30 minutes a day or something, then a little bit every day is the best advice. But the more you do every day, you need some time off. And I'm going to come back to your questions for lordness because I want to get answer the rest of these pairs really quick. So just keep typing. The next pair is born and bone. So again, we have an R-colored or R-colored yeah. There's an R-colored guys. R-colored O, or born, born. The other one is just a regular O, bone, okay? Born, bone. And the last pair is street and straight. Now, remember, as I say, the T plus R consonant. There are some speakers who will keep that as a T. They'll say street, straight. To me, that sounds kind of weird. That's not how I speak. I just recently started to notice that some people do that, and that's okay. You could do it either way. I think it's actually easier to do it the way I do. T plus R consonant is going to be chur. Changes the T into a CH, and we sort of blend it into that R. So first we have street, and then straight. So the first one is E, the first vowel on the vowel chart. And the second one is A, the diphthong A, spelled AI, which is a common spelling for I, but it's actually A in this case, straight, okay? So I'm going to say all of these pairs side by side to finish this up for Liang Shu, so that you will have this at the beginning when you watch the replay. Odor, older, fork, folk, or folk, if you do L-colored O. Born, bone, street, straight. Okay. And I did push the K out on fork and folk because I wasn't focused on it. It's supposed to be a glottal stop most likely, but that's not the focus. It doesn't matter. Okay. So moving on to where I left off with forlornness. How does the preposition through work? That's a good question. I wish it had been there. Wait, I wish it had been there in the book. Oh, yeah. So when I was selecting, we already, God, you guys are just already blowing up the comments. That's good. So when, as I said before, actually, I think I mentioned this last time for lordness and you weren't here. Because last time I actually talked a bit about the logic of prepositions because people had some questions about it. But when I was going through deciding which prepositions to include in the book, I looked at all the prepositions in English, and some of them I can understand why people might have some difficulty with them here and there. I mean, you know, it makes sense. But I wanted to focus on the ones that had either the most possible like meanings or context applications that they could be used in, or that are just like generally like really difficult for most English learners. And so I picked 17 out of our total. I think it's like almost 30 prepositions or something. I don't remember. And through did not make the cut because through is relatively straightforward, but it can be a tricky one. It can be a tricky one. So we can talk about that for sure. I'm going to come back to that because I want to address a lot of what's already being said here. I see David says hi, hello. Unknown says hi, and hi again, unknown. We had our 30-minute session earlier from the 1,000 subscriber live stream prize. So good to see that unknown showed up. It's probably pretty late there since it was already night when we had our session. But anyway, Forlornness also says, been watching mob movies today, kind of vibing. Yeah, I spend 2 hours on average plus tune my vowels after sometimes. Oh, tune my vowels after sometimes. Yeah, okay, I read that wrong. See, sometimes intonation when you're reading is important, and we'll have to reread something because we read it with the wrong intonation, and it throws us off. Gonna talk to my friends, so it's still some practice. Well, good. Yeah, very good. Yeah, mob movies. I don't particularly care about mob movies myself, but I know it's a big genre that a lot of people like, so it's cool. Very good. Practice is practice. As long as you're focused on what you're interested in, it's fantastic. Um, Same about how it feels like about burnouts. Yeah. Yeah. So you got to pace yourself sometimes. Self-awareness of, your own energy, your own, whatever, what you can handle. Um, and sometimes you got to kind of push things until you find where that limit is, because sometimes you might not know. But Um, and then so earlier when I was talking about street and straight, so you say with an sh sound, so it would be sh and a t, so it'd be like how do you even do that? Street, like that, street. God, that's really difficult in my mouth. Street. I assume you're not making the t into a ch. Yeah, street, up the street. I can imagine maybe some people saying it that way. That's definitely not the way I would think to describe it in like any way, because it's normally supposed to be an S. um, I don't I don't want to say I haven't heard anybody say it with an sh, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you've heard natives say it that way, like in a serious way, not in an intentionally manipulative way to manipulate the sounds, then it's valid. You could do that. That's fine. But otherwise, I would recommend you change it to an S sound. But let's see, Gabriel, I'm dealing with a burnout right now, and I'm taking a little break this week. Okay, it's good. It's good. Yeah, so we're not going to say a burnout. Um, it doesn't sound too bad, but we just talk about it as like it's just burnout. It's like a state. So we don't really count it. Um, you could talk about a time that you had burnout or that you burned out, as a phrasal verb, but yeah, no a. But yeah, that's okay. It's always okay to take a break. Just make sure that you, as we say, get back on the horse. That's a phrase we have. Make sure you get back on the horse, because it can be very, very easy if you're pushing, you're learning, and then you get kind of tired and burned out, and then you say, okay, I'm just gonna take a break, and then one day turns into 3 days, turns into a week, turns into 2 weeks. The next thing you know, it's been 6 months since you practiced English or studied English. So keep your eye on that for sure, but nothing wrong with taking a break. Nothing wrong with that. I would recommend not taking a break of more than, say, 2 days, maybe three at the most. But it also depends on what else you're doing. Like if you have a really, really busy life, um, make sure you try to maybe do at least a little bit every day if you can, like listen to something, maybe some music or something to keep contact. But um, yeah, try not to go too long of a break. How to do shadowing more effectively. I know why you're saying effective. Sometimes we'll say that, but it's wrong. How to do shadowing more effectively, or how to target things, how to work specifically on the rhythm. We work on the rhythm. Intonation, pronunciation, whether it's possible to do all that together or I got to separate it. Good question. Unknown says worth it. Yeah, I just saw that. Cool. Yeah, very nice. So how to do shadowing more effectively? So I know we still have your question about prepositions. I'm definitely going to make sure I get to that. So, but how to do shadowing more effectively, how to target things, how to work specifically on the rhythm. So you want to break it down. That's why I talk about doing multiple passes, where if you have a sentence, I want to go to the beach, I want to go to the beach, you're listening to that. And right, if you want to focus on, say, the rhythm, the intonation, the stress, right, that's kind of all in the same type of area. And you don't even worry about the words. You don't worry about the sounds. You just focus on the up and the down and the flow of sound itself as like a blob unit, right? I want to go to the beach. You can slow it down, right? I want to go to the beach. And that can really help slowing it down to really work on the rhythm and intonation to make sure that you're hitting the highs correctly. The more you slow it down, the more the rhythm and intonation kind of starts to break, and becomes a little unnatural. So don't go too slow with it, but you can put a sentence into Audacity, for example, and slow it down a little bit. And it might get a little choppy, but it's okay. and then you do a separate pass for the sounds, and you make sure that you're really observing all the connections, all the linking, what's happening, what are the exact sounds that are being said. So observation is a really, really big part of it. Observation is actually the first part, because if you're not observing, how can you repeat it, right? You might see the words and you might think you know how they're pronounced, like, oh, I know that. But when it comes to the physical, mechanical level, where we're talking about how are you using your mouth, how are your ears perceiving the actual sounds, it is so easy to drastically underestimate the reality and to overestimate your abilities of perception. And it's not until, even for advanced learners, I've had several advanced students that, they thought that they were hearing everything correctly and that they were doing things fine. But then when they really took the time to listen and focus on what actually is being said, what are the actual sounds that are being produced, they were shocked to find that there were things that they weren't even noticing, because their brain was adapting based on what they knew. And so they were understanding it, but they weren't actually hearing everything that a native speaker would be hearing, because our brains are, tuned to our own language. So when somebody says is there instead of is there, and the th disappears, then we interpret it as is there, but we know we and we won't consciously hear that there's no th, because our brain just interprets it. But when we speak, we naturally just say is there, is there. It just naturally comes out that way. So there's some sort of thing going on in the background that we're subconsciously able to adapt to it. That's kind of off the topic of your question, but break it down and slow it down. That's what I would say, and go slow to fast. That's what I would say for shadowing. If you have any specific questions about like how to do shadowing, or should I do this, should I do that, then I could better address those. But slowing it down really helps, moving from slow to fast over multiple passes. And you want to bring all the pieces back together. So once you have the good rhythm, once you have all the sounds down, then you want to sort of zoom in on anything you have trouble with, zoom back out to try to put it back into the flow. And then once you can say the whole sentence at a good speed, like, say a slow but, nice, good rhythm, I want to go to the beach, whatever. And you're hitting everything, properly or close enough, then you speed it up a little bit more. Until you can say it really, really fast, right? So I hope that makes sense. David says, "Hey, Jess, good to see you." Yes, good to see you too. And yeah, I missed that comment. I saw the other comment. And I remember from our Patreon thing, we're going to be talking about something today, so I'll definitely make sure to address that. For lordness says, I say stuff like street and strange sometimes too, for street and strange. Yeah, to my mind, saying it with an sh sound, and this actually kind of ties to what, indirectly to what David and I were talking about on Patreon, but we were talking about music. Sometimes what native speakers will do, if we want to speak in a kind of funny way, like, we're not trying to be funny necessarily, but sometimes you kind of just like, you say things weird intentionally because you can. Because maybe you're in a weird mood or something, and so you're not necessarily speaking seriously. You're not saying the words you normally would, but you say, like, I don't know. Well, you say, that's strange. It's very strange. Like, you might say it that way just like because you want to, because for a particular effect or whatever. I don't know. So for these types of words, putting an sh there, I would do that if I were trying to manipulate the sound of the word in a special case, not actually in like real speech. But again, that's just me. Maybe there are people who actually say it that way. Mob movies are good exposure to old New York accents. That's true. Definitely true. Seaton says hi. Sorry, took a while. Just saw your comment. I'm so behind already. We just started. Hello, Seaton. Hope everyone is doing well. Yeah, it just sometimes happens, especially after ours. I don't even know what that's talking about now. I'm too far behind. Um, especially after ours. Anyway, I hear a lot of Americans say street like street. Okay, well, if you people, if you guys are hearing it, then I mean, I guess it's a normal thing. It's strange to me. See, notice I just said it's strange. It's strange, and that might be interpreted as an sh. That might be what you're hearing. It's not quite an sh. It's a good thing I said that and caught myself. Um, I'm starting in an S, and as I transition to the T, which is a CH in at least in the way I say it, the CH is a T. You start in the T position, and you push an SH through the T. It's very, very natural for a native speaker of American English to start in the S position. And as we start transitioning to that CH, we'll actually let that SH start coming through before we close the T. So it's not that there's an SH and then the T or CH sound. We still start in an S. Strange. Okay. And you might not really be picking up on that initial S sound at the beginning. That might be what you're hearing. But it could be, from another part of the country. There's slight little subtle differences between Western General American and middle of the country General American. So very slight differences. Only a couple of very big differences. For learners usually enunciated and clear, but happens. I assume it's attached to the previous comment. Anyway, I'm always about to bury myself low if it's longer than 1 day low. Hate it so much. I have 2 or 3 days breaks. Yeah, going back to the breaks. Yeah, I don't know. You just gotta pace yourself. Everybody's a little bit different. Depends on how hard you push when you are doing it. Like if you're doing 5 or 6 hours a day, you could probably take 2 or 3 breaks. 2 or 3 day breaks. Josh, I have heard you say this many times, forgot the S there, that it's not the correct quality of sound. So just wanted to know what exactly does that mean? Does it have to do something with where the voice is produced? Funny, I got that question last time too. Hey, Josh. Yes, hello, Steven. So yeah, I think I got that question last time. Or no, that's right. It came up last time, I think, because one of my students mentioned it. What I hear, I think Rachel's English and maybe some other teachers, when they talk about the quality of sound, and I tried to explain this in my lesson about the truth about the schwa sound. Other teachers, I guess, when they talk about quality, they're talking about where the sound comes from, because I guess depending on the language, like some languages speak a little more from the chest, some speak maybe a little more from the throat, which is a new concept for me. I never noticed that before. Like that seems strange. I would even say that's more of like an individual speaker thing rather than like a language thing, but maybe I'm wrong about that. However, that's not at all what I'm talking about. When I talk about the quality of a sound, I am in no way talking about where the sound is coming from. I'm talking about, like, for example, in Spanish, the E sound is E, E, E. But in English, it's E, E, E. And you probably don't hear any difference there. It's almost identical. It uses the same IPA symbol, but it's a very slightly different position. More to Seden's point and to Seden's experience, Hindi, which is Seden's native language, has the second vowel sound the capital I in IPA, but on the vowel chart, it's farther back. And when I hear, because he's given me some resources for me to try to listen to in Hindi for that sound, and when I hear a Hindi speaker make the sound, I recognize it as the same sound. It just sounds a little different. It's like it's the same symbol, it's the same sound technically. It just doesn't sound exactly the same as English. It sounds a little weird. Like it's like an accented second vowel compared to English. So That's what I mean by the quality. Okay, it doesn't have the right um, attributes to it. Maybe the tenseness is a little different, or the exact position is just slightly off. It doesn't sound like another sound, but it's just not quite in the right place. Um, so that's what I mean when I talk about quality of the sound. I couldn't think of a better word than quality, so that's what I picked. I do that and even read a few lines about it in your book. I usually just listen until I hear pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. Then I try to nail each of it step by step until I kind of get it right, though I don't perfect it because it would take forever and be annoying. I use Adobe Premiere because it's more comfy, plus I get to see mouth shapes sometimes. I'm not done until I hear each sound right, otherwise I miss it out. That's not correct. So I don't practice a wrong thing. I miss it out. I think you mean like I leave it out? Um, miss it out. To miss out is a phrasal verb, but we miss out on something, meaning like you had an opportunity that for whatever reason you either chose to not take, or maybe you didn't know about it and so you couldn't take it. Um, so yeah, that's definitely the wrong phrasal verb. So I don't practice instead of a wrong thing, we probably say something wrong. So I don't practice something wrong, or the wrong thing. We don't usually say a wrong thing in this case, in this context. Yeah, I started noticing all the dental TDs for TH sound and all of that, or sometimes gemination assimilation. Like when I listen to sounds for many times, no, for when I listen to sounds many times instead of interpreting things. Good, good. Yeah, you got to notice these details. So it goes back to what I was saying. You really have to observe. You have to observe what is actually being pronounced. Um, and sometimes it won't really matter too much. Like in the case of using a dental T or D for the THs, as Ahmet originally pointed out to me, and now I'm very much aware of, native speakers do this all the time, but we're not consciously aware of it. And when you ask us, you say, why are you doing a dental D instead of a TH? They'll say, what are you talking about? I'm doing a TH. Because we don't even know what a dental D is. Like, unless you know something about like linguistic terminology or pronunciation terminology, a dental D to the average person on the planet, they're going to be like, what the heck is that? um, so yeah, we're totally not even conscious of it. And in the case of the TH, it's a perfectly fine variation. It's not informal. So sometimes you'll hear a TH, a lot of times you'll hear a dental T or D. And you have to notice these things. That's a point where you don't have to do that technically. You'll still sound natural if you do regular TH, but and sometimes we just don't do the dental T and D like an other because of the next sound. But anyway, okay, yeah. Unknown says, I try to do shadowing, but it makes me look so goofy that I give up after some time. I've kind of come to terms with it though. So yeah, I mean, if if you're doing it with people around you, then obviously that can be a concern. That's why it helps. Like if you're gonna babble or hum, like see, babies don't care. They just make noises, and they're supposed to make noises. We expect that. They're babies, right? But then if you're sitting there and you're trying to like repeat the sentence, you know, or hum the sentence, whatever you're working on, it feels strange. It can look strange. So you might want some privacy. um, I think that that is not a good reason to not shadow at all. Um, because I mean, if you avoided every little thing that was uncomfortable, you wouldn't do much. Especially if you're more introverted like me. Like, there's a lot of things in life. I haven't even opened my drink yet. There are a lot of things in life that I don't want to do. I haven't wanted to do. Like starting my YouTube channel. Like I was, even though I've been teaching English for, well, at the time I started the channel, I think I was like 4 to 5 years. I'm like 5 to 6 years at this point, but teaching English. Even though I've been teaching English for several years, I was terrified to start the YouTube channel. And then even making a TikTok, I was terrified to start a TikTok account. And, you know, it's like, I don't know. It's completely normal. Everything new is scary until you do it, right? Or it might be uncomfortable until you get used to it. So uh, the benefits greatly outweigh the uncomfortableness. Okay. So Ahmet asks, hi Josh, can you take a look at my previous question if you have time? It'll actually take you around 4 seconds to check the video. Wait, previous question. I don't think I have a question from you. You said check the video, so if you put a link, YouTube probably blocked it because I don't think it allows links. I see one where it says message retracted from you, but I don't see, and then another message retracted, so I don't see a question from you. So I don't know. How do we do that? I can look for whatever it is that you're trying to send me, and maybe I can find it. I hate that YouTube does that. Like, they should at least give me the opportunity to accept the link, like they do with some other things. But for learning, some people replace S for TH for comic effect. Yeah, that happens sometimes too. Anyway, would you drop the TH even in a phrase like "What was that"? Yeah, what was that? What was that? What was that? In fact, we'll probably drop the T at the end of what as well. We'll say what was that? What was that? What was that? The T at the end is going to be there in the form of a stop, most likely a glottal stop. But the thing about the T, I think this is the next, like I mentioned at the end of the schwa video, the truth about the schwa. I think the next video I'm going to make about the range and quality of sounds is going to be the T sound. For various reasons, but when it comes to the T, out of all the sounds in the English language, and again, we're talking about the sound, not just the letter, but commonly, obviously, it will be written with the letter T. Out of all the sounds in the English language that could possibly be dropped in a word or through the flow of speech, especially if it's at the end of a word, T is definitely the single most common sound that we might drop. And I don't mean stop, I mean completely just, it disappears. It happens all the time, especially in really fast speech and or more informal speech. So very good question. Yeah, what was that? What was that? Anyway, I think, yeah, if it's fast. Yeah, exactly, for learners. But it's usually like a stop after was a slight one. Was wait, a stop after was. You mean like at the end of that? I think that's what you're talking about. Usually, yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, I say it like that. I don't do a full sh before, just like you described it. Okay, yeah. So I was talking about how there's a slight s at the start, and words like street, strange. Yeah, if it's really clearly enunciated in those words, again, maybe some speakers just use a straight sh, but if it's really clearly enunciated, I'm going to say a nice good s, sure, sure, and you're going to hear s to a ch. But if I'm speaking really quickly or lazily, you're probably going to hear a little bit of s at the beginning, and it immediately starts transitioning to an sh. Straight, straight, strange, strange. Right, so it gets a little blurry. Oh yeah, Rachel says that. I guess we're talking about. Notice I said says that. Rachel says that. Says that. Says that. I'm dropping the th there. I suppose we're talking about the quality of sound coming from the chest or whatever. Yeah. I haven't seen that video. It was brought to my attention by another person, and I was like, that's weird. So I guess maybe, I mean, if she's talking about it, I assume that it's true and it's something that exists. It's just something I've never noticed. Okay, I heard the difference between Spanish E and English E. Well, also we could talk about the Cockout merger. I got so many thoughts about it. Okay, yeah, we could definitely talk about that. So, since I don't seem to be able to catch up to all your guys' comments, I don't want to leave Forlornness's question about through behind, and I also want to talk a bit about the thing I was talking about with David on Patreon. Um, Maybe I'll get to that a little bit later. But really quick for Forlornness's question about through. How does the preposition through work? All right, so I'm going to show you guys the way that I figured this out because since I didn't include through in the book, I didn't go through the whole process. I have looked a bit at through in the different meanings, and I think at one point I did come up with the logical core for it because it was relatively simple. But let's see. That's one I haven't thought about in a while. So I can't share my screen with you guys, obviously, since I'm using my webcam on YouTube here. But if we go to the dictionary, if you go to dictionary.com, you type in through. As a preposition, there are 10 different dictionary entries, which is insane. And note, as I explained in the introduction to the book, if there's a different use of a particular word, like through can also be used as an adverb or an adjective, that doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. Just because it's not a preposition use, the core idea and feeling still applies because it applies to all uses of that word. It just happens that grammatically you can use some of these prepositions as what are not technically grammatically called prepositions. They're different things, but it's still the same word. Okay, so in total, between preposition use, adverb use, and adjective use, there are 23 dictionary definitions or entries for through. And now that I see this, I think I was using a different dictionary when I went through it, and there was a very limited number of entries. Now that I look at this one, I'm like, maybe I should have included this in the book. And I can't see you guys' comments at the moment, so I'm gonna come back to that, but I'm gonna try to stick here for a second to answer the through question. So what I did when I was writing the book is I went through all the different dictionary entries. It didn't matter if it's preposition, adverb, whatever. I went through all the different dictionary entries, and I tried to take any meanings that were so similar that they're basically meaning the same thing. It's just like, okay, it's a slightly different meaning or whatever, and I put them under the same type of heading. And then I tried to, once I condensed that, I said, okay, are there any distinctive groups of meaning in whatever form, preposition, adverb, whatever? And so I would say, okay, this is group one, where all these examples, they kind of point to this rough general meaning. Group two is this rough general meaning. And then I took all of those and I said, okay, what is the core underlying idea that we could maybe find like a key word or phrase that helps to, in some way, abstractly or otherwise, explain each of these groups. Because remember, the idea is that under the surface, there's that core, like the root of the plant, and it has roots that might touch other plants as well, so we get interaction. But on the surface, you see all the different leaves and stuff. That's all the different meanings, and so we want to dig down into that core. I would probably have to take some time to go through and find that core idea based on what I'm seeing here. So I'll probably add this as like a bonus to the Logic of Preposition course, video course that I'm making. It'll probably be towards the end because I want to get to all the other positions first. So we can definitely do that. Otherwise, if you want, I can maybe spend some time thinking about it, and next week during the live stream, I can maybe give you a better answer since I'll be prepared for it. However, what I will tell you right now is off the top of my head with how through feels to me. I mean, through is through. It feels like through, it's yeah. But it depending on the context, it's going to interact with different prepositions in different ways. Because you can go through time, you can go through a container, you can go through a tunnel, you can go through a book. So I'll think about it, and we'll come back to that next week. But I will spend more time on that later and add it to the course. I don't want to get too far behind with all the other stuff that we have here. Okay. Now, where was I? Oh, I see. Okay, so Amit. So yeah, there's the Cockout merger. We can come back to that for learners. You can remind me. Amit says, when are you going to talk about placement? Placement, as in the placement of sounds, because I always talk about that. I don't use the word placement specifically, but yes. For lordness, yeah, leave it out. I don't know. My brain is weird. Just thought of see. I can't get too far behind because I don't know what these things are talking about. Just thought of it too when you said my version. I ended up signing up for Rachel's English, and she talks a lot about quality of sounds and all. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's Rachel. I don't know a whole lot about what she teaches, except that it's American English. So yeah, dental TD stuff. I'm hanging out with a friend daily, and he doesn't hear the difference between versions of ah, like want and cot, two different sounds, but I do hear it. Yeah, initially, before I even knew about the cot merger, I didn't hear the difference either. I heard absolutely no difference. And I found this random linguistics video. It's made in English for English speakers. It wasn't like whatever. And I had already been teaching English for a while. Not super heavily on pronunciation at that point, but and he was saying like, oh yeah, there's this thing called the Cockout merger, and he's like, how do you say these two words? And he gave an example of somebody from like the East Coast or whatever saying or the middle of the country saying the two words, and I was like I had to listen to it several times, and I was like, I think I can kind of hear a difference. And now I can hear it. I can hear it pretty well because I've had enough practice and observation of it that it's still difficult for me to do the unmerged aw sound because it just feels like my mouth is being put into a very unnatural position. And it still seems kind of British to me. But in American English, I am starting to hear that more when I actually listen to people who are from other parts of the country. So, yeah. For those of you who don't know, the cot merger is where there's ah and ah, and in Western American English, which is like almost half the country, the ah got moved back and the ah disappeared, and so we just have the one sound. So cot cot and caughd caught are pronounced the same cot. So it's a cot merger, and that's how I speak, which is easier for you guys because there's one less sound to learn, and you don't have to worry about your lips. So Steve asks, bad can be reduced to bed, right? Can also okay, bad word order. Maybe put also first. You could do that, but can man also be reduced to men, or am I wrong? Good question. So, bad day, a bad day, a bad day, bad day. Okay, when we're talking about reductions, I think there are two kinds of reductions. There are reductions that are commonly used regardless of speed. Because we might say something that not like super fast, but we're still not clearly enunciating. We're just being kind of lazy with how we speak, and we still might use a reduction, okay? Because it's just a very natural, common way to say it. It's not the only way to say it because it's being reduced. We're just not clearly enunciating it. But then there's another type of reduction that only happens with speed. Okay, it's laziness and speed that will cause certain other reductions. And I think whenever a word that is supposed to be especially if it's a content word, if it's a function word like that, I think maybe it's a little more flexible and it doesn't matter as much. But if it's a word like bad or man, we do have a lazier way to say where you don't have to say you say like right? So it's just not quite as open, but you need the same basic kind of shape. The quality is a little bit different, but it still sounds like not eh. So that's one thing we might do. If you're speaking really fast and lazily, then yes, bad can be reduced to bed. It's not supposed to be. We're not intentionally trying to say it that way. We're just not quite hitting Again, really fast speech, lazy speech. Okay. If you enunciate it, you start speaking a little slower, you're not going to do that. If you say, I had a bad day, it sounds completely wrong. People are going to say, what do you mean a bad day? That doesn't make any sense. Okay. So only in the special case of speed plus laziness. Okay. It's a special type of reduction. With man, yes, the exact same thing can happen. But again, only with speed and laziness. As soon as you start slowing down, or if you're trying to say the word a little bit more clearly with good speed, like I see a man, there's a man over there, it's going to start opening back into okay? So very special type of reduction. It's not a standard normal reduction. Don't say it that way most of the time, unless you're speaking very quickly. Good question. That's another thing I have to make a video on. Add it to the list. I have such a long list. But very, very good question, Steve. Thank you for that question. Okay, for lordness, I'm introverted. AF, yeah, as fuck. Yes, I said it. For anybody who doesn't know AF, that's what that means. It's an amplifier. It means I'm really introverted. Or extremely introverted, like a very big amplifier. And I'm still going to do a lot of embarrassing things because because I was talking about that before. I have the IDGAF, another acronym, which means I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say it here just for your guys' benefit so you understand. That is a sort of a short text acronym way to say that. Attitude. And that means I really don't care, like whatever. Okay. So I have I don't care attitude. Got to do it if I want things. Sorry for the strong language. Yeah, no problem. See, one of the cool things is like if you write AF or IDGAF and you're not actually writing FUCK, it's not perceived as strong. Like obviously the meaning is there. Like in our heads, we're gonna say like we know what it is. We're probably not gonna say AF. We're actually gonna say it fully in our heads. But because it's not actually being spoken and it's not hitting our ears, and we're not seeing FUCK fully spelled out, it actually doesn't feel as strong. And I think that as long as you're not in a like professional environment, it's actually like an acceptable way to use the F word without actually using the F word. We have other ways we do that in speech, like frick, which is like a family friendly, or fudge. We might use fudge instead. So, forlornness. See, okay, things. I'm going to go ahead and show this. It wanted me to block that. Okay. What happened? I lost my spot. No. Okay, I will catch up eventually. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like as we continue to grow, like if we just get like 2 or 3 more people in here who are as engaged as you guys are, I'm not gonna be able to keep up at all. Like we're gonna have to have like a moderator or something, even though there's so few people here, because obviously I cannot keep up. I need to answer faster, I guess. Okay. And Forlorna says, Steve, I think you mishear sounds. Probably not. Steve's question tells me that he actually might be hearing things very well, that he actually either might have really good ears or really good listening. Because I mean, I already explained that yes, that's possible, but again, it's with speed, and the fact that he's hearing that with the speed. Now, if you're hearing it at a slower speed, then I don't know. That seems very strange to me. But if you're hearing it with that fast speed in a lazy way, you have to have pretty good ears to do that. So that's a very, very good sign. I'll show that one as well. I'm not even reading them. I'm just going to show them. Okay, I definitely. Unknown says, yeah, I know. I definitely know what you mean. Got to get comfortable with uncomfortableness to achieve basically anything. Yes, exactly. So, can fina replace gonna? Fina? What? Like instead of I'm gonna do that, you say I'm fina do that? Because fina sounds like I'm fine to do something, like I'm okay doing something. Or possibly find a could become fina. Did you find a interesting book? Did you find an interesting book? Because we can drop that D there. Um, Otherwise, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Like, I don't see how that could replace gonna. Maybe I'm just not thinking of something. You can follow that up with more explanation. I feel that when the T is super important to affricate that in English. Um, yeah, all these technical terms. I really hate technical terms because they're not particularly useful, but uh, it explodes, so to say, compared to other T's in other languages, as in entonces in Spanish, which sounds like a duller T. Yeah, the reason why it sounds like a duller D or duller T is because Spanish uses a dental T. um, entonces, to. So that's definitely true. That's a very good observation. Right. So when T is stressed, yes, if it's a stressed T, right, if it's a strong T, as I call it, it's at the start of a stressed syllable, um, then it's definitely going to be t, 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 t. We want to hear that. It, like I mean, it's a T quality in English. It's t, right. It's a burst, um, much like k, except k is in the back and t uses the front here. Um, Now T does sound kind of similar to ch in a way. It can, but it has this crisp quality to it, right? Compared to t, t, t. That sounds like, as you said, a duller T. That's exactly the way I would describe it. Um, Now, if there's an S before it, the S is going to slightly dull that T. Not necessarily because the T is being done differently, but because I think the sound of the S, that sort of whistle quality of the S, drowns out the full explosion of the T. So instead of t, which just comes out of nowhere, st, st, st. Now, if I'm really pushing on, I'm really enunciating, stop, stop. Wait, I'm not going to say it, but off for the voice. Stop, stop. And it can start sounding a bit like a D, right? Which some teachers teach it as it becomes like a D. It's not a D. It can just kind of start sounding like that because the S is sort of dulling that T a bit. It's a weird thing. There's different ways to look at that and describe that. Some points in pronunciation and linguistics, I think, are somewhat subjective. It's supposed to be a science, but I mean, it's not a perfect science, for sure. So, but anyway, yeah, in cases, because I don't know if you're using this referring to like with street. So you're saying like, well, maybe it should be a T because it's stressed. I don't know if you're tying it to that, but that's a special combination. I've sent my question through Patreon DMs. Ah, okay. So that's who. Yeah, I wasn't sure who it was. I was trying to figure out. No problem. No problem. Do. Yeah, because I was gonna say just send it on Patreon, but I didn't know if you had. I didn't think you had the Patreon because I didn't know that you were this person. Um, okay, what you sent me is, can you take a look at my previous question if you have time? It actually takes around 4 seconds to check the video. I didn't get the question or the video link. Is that no? Because I don't see anything else in the Patreon history. I don't, did you send me the wrong copy and paste the wrong thing? Because I'm not seeing it here, or maybe it just hasn't gone through yet. I don't know. I'll check that again in a second. When you stress the word your, what vowel do you use? Is it more like your or your? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 99% of the time, this is just your. It gets reduced to so there's no or anything. Clearly said, if we stress it for some reason, like it's your responsibility. It's supposed to be or. Okay, R colored O, not like yo or you definitely not you because that might be possibly we can say apostrophe re like you are. We can maybe keep the oo sound, even though it's supposed to be pronounced the same as your. Um, that's another variation, but anyway, it's supposed to be our color. So if for some reason we maybe hold it a bit, or we really, I don't know, stress the word in a certain way, like I say, it's your responsibility. You can kind of start to get a little bit of a separation from the R color, and that's okay, but it's supposed to be R colored. Your, or. Um, it doesn't have to be perfect, but so to answer your question, yes. I guess that's the answer. Okay, talking about Cockout merger. And let me check Patreon here. Make sure I haven't gotten this new message because I don't want to take forever to get back to that. I will send you in a minute. Okay, then I'll come back again. Oh wait, no, here it is. Okay. Oh, I got it. Okay, yeah. Can you check 17 seconds? They both say theater, and the guys say it with a dental T, right? Because to me, this is a direct comparison. Okay, let's see. And it was at what? Stupid Patreon. I really wish that Patreon links would automatically open in a new tab because I just click on it and then the Patreon window goes away and I need to go back to the message to check something. Okay. Yeah, so open link, new tab, 17 seconds. Come on. 17. Let me go just shy of that. Okay. Oh my god, load. So slow. So by the way, so far, because you said 17 seconds, I didn't hear them say that word at 17 seconds. Maybe I missed it. But 17 seconds. Yeah, let me go back because there was a lag in the load. Maybe it just skipped over it. Let me see. I will say though, listening to her speak, because she said she's from the Midwest, I think. Yeah. Uh, uh Yeah, she says that she grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, so she has more of the Midwest accent. Listening to her speak just in general, um, I'm not really like super like trying to say, oh, is this a different? Is that different? I'm just listening to her speak, and I'm like, as far as my ears go, I'm not. This is what I say. I want to mention this really quick. This is why I say that there's not really a difference between like there's not a big difference between Western and regular General American. Like they're all Western American is still under the umbrella of General American because there's like one or two major differences, and then outside of that, we don't really notice much differences between each other except maybe in certain words. And so listening to her speak, even though she says she's from Cleveland, Ohio, um, she sounds like I would not be able to tell just based off of the 20 seconds I've listened to her speak. Um, like I would, if you say, well, "Can you tell where I'm from?" I'd be like, "I don't know, the California." I don't know. So I think that's important to note. But let me see. Refreshing Patreon. They listen to this. Oh my god. Okay. Back to this. Oh, 117. Got it. That makes sense. 117. Okay, so I'm gonna go back a little bit. 113. Let's see. Okay. Did I miss it again? Oh, is that 108? Yeah, he didn't finish his idea. She said it with a th. He said it with a dental d, and then he was about to say like, "Who says th?" um, it could very well be that maybe the dental d, or maybe in certain words, could be more common in certain regions. Um, but yeah, I'm definitely hearing what you're saying. Now, also paying attention to how she's saying the word and how he's saying the word. I don't know if she always says th. Number one thing to keep in mind in a video like this, they are consciously focused on words and they're trying to say it the way they would naturally say it, but it makes it a little bit different than how it might come out in actual speech. And so she might be enunciating a little more clearly than she otherwise would, and he is maybe just not paying as much attention, for this particular word. However, it doesn't matter. As I said, the th or the dental d or dental t, if it's a voiceless th, um, they're just two variations that they don't sound informal. There's no problem with them whatsoever. So yeah, but it's good. It's good that you notice that. Which I want to go and actually kind of listen to more of these words because a lot of what I'm hearing her say, these example words, I'm just like, yeah, they sound. I don't hear any problem with how she's saying them. Like she doesn't sound like she has an accent. Okay, route and root, I say both as well. Um, he says root. Wash, wash. Oil, oil. Yeah. Iron, same. Salmon, same. Caramel. They're saying all these words exactly the same. Like maybe there's some words, I'm not going to sit here and watch all of the words that they say, but a lot of the words that they're both saying, I don't hear really any difference between how they're saying them at all. um, so that I think just further helps to prove my point that I mean maybe there's just something off with my ears as a native because my ears are adapting to the language itself. That can happen within your own language, but uh, generally speaking, between the West and the Midwest, or the sort of the middle of the country, we're not going to hear hardly any differences in how each person speaks, um, except with like with the Cockout merger. That's one thing. But again, like Westerners don't usually even hear the Cockout merger. Like we don't even perceive it. So um, okay, going back up here, now that I answered that, you can have some follow-up to that, Ahmet, if you want. But as you're talking about Cockout merger, pay attention to how you say want, all, call. All of them don't sound like a merger. It sounds like a Californian version of Midwestern back east ah. Want, want, all. Well, all and call are special because they're L colored. So they're going to sound a little bit different no matter what, no matter who says them. But with want, let's see, what's another word that has ah? Saw, want, saw, want. I want it. I saw what I wanted. I saw what I wanted. I mean, I can maybe feel a very, very, very slight change in what my tongue is doing. Extremely minutely small, but I don't really hear any difference. I mean, maybe you hear a difference and I don't. But I would say that it's just the same as all the other ahs I do. Now, I will say one thing. David mentioned this quite a while ago, like way back earlier in the channel, where people with the cot merger, they will sometimes use the unmerged sounds, whether ah or ah, and not even notice it. And I think that's perfectly fine and valid because the dialect programs our brains to perceive and produce the merged version, but because obviously we're exposed to many native speakers from many places, and also babies look at mouths too. We probably have some exposure to the unmerged version, and so we will unconsciously actually sometimes go one or the other unmerged. It just happens to come out that way, and we don't actually consciously notice or hear any difference. It's a strange thing that can happen, but I think that exists as well, because sometimes going back editing some of my videos, I notice when I say on, sometimes I'll say it like on, on. I don't know if you guys ever picked that up in my videos, but I don't realize that I'm doing it that way when I'm recording. It's only when I go back and I listen, and I might say on and on, like right next to each other, like say just a couple seconds apart or a minute apart or something. And one will be with the unmerged version, one will be with the merged version. And so at the end of the day, it really does not matter, especially for you guys learning. Like, I recommend that you just do the merged version because it's easier. But if you happen to hit the unmerged version, it's fine. Now, you might not want to do the unmerged ah in a word that's supposed to have ah, because then it might sound weird. And that's what makes it, again, complicated. And you just have to worry about one sound in the way that I speak, or consciously am aware of speaking anyway. So there's all kinds of little strange things that can happen. I think it's either, or I think it's either like core or fur unstressed. Talking about Youre. Yeah, so core is also our colored, or fur. Fur, whether stressed or not. I think you mean unstressed. I don't know if you're saying unstressed referring to the unstressed Youre, or unstressed as an unstressed fur, because FUR is always stressed because it's a content word and it's pronounced which is the same as the unstressed, the reduced version of Youre. It's just an vowel. Youre sounds like saying U and R. It's basically kind of what I was saying, yeah. Okay, can you at least explain the logic of through in get come through or something like that? I can, yes. Get is going to be kind of complicated. We can talk about that specifically, but get obviously has get is a problem verb, as we know. So, God, I'm so far behind. Come through is Come through. There's many different contexts where it could be applied. It could be physical. It could be more abstract. Like, I don't know, if I try to call you on the phone, and we're also like, we have, like, say, Facebook Messenger or whatever, and I say I'm calling you, and you type and you say it's not coming through. Like, that's a more abstract use where it's not like necessarily physically going through something. Um, Come and go are generally opposites, and the difference between come and go is a lot about perspective. Um, the basic meaning of come is towards the speaker, but it depends on how I'm thinking, right? If I'm in, say, Brazil, and I'm talking to you on the phone and you're in Russia, okay, and in my mind, right, you're going to visit the United States, and in my mind, I'm thinking that, okay, right now I'm in Brazil. Like, this isn't a conscious thought necessarily, but I'm thinking, okay, when you come to the United States, I will be back in the United States. So instead of me saying, like, when you go to the United States, meaning you go away from where you are to the United States, I can say when you come to the United States, even though I'm not in the United States when I say it. So based on how I'm thinking and how I'm perceiving, the situation, I might change go to come. And it really doesn't matter. It's two ways to say the same thing in that case. It just depends on how I'm thinking of it. That's a more subtle point. But come through, again, through is through something. So if it's a call, right, the call will go through or come through, depending on how we're looking at it, meaning it won't connect. So we need a connection through the communication system in order for the call to happen. If, let's say, I have an ink pen and a paper, and I make a big spot, and then I look at the other side of the paper and I say, oh, the ink is coming through the other side, or showing through, we might say. So again, it's like through the paper, you can see the ink. Or come through with the meaning of, this is more of a phrasal verb meaning. Those first meanings are not phrasal verbs. They're just come plus through. When you combine them into a special meaning, you can get something like, I really hope you come through for me. So I'm counting on you to do something. I need you to do something, right? Like, send me $100 because I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere and I need money. Okay. And I tell you on the phone, hey, I really need you to come through, meaning I need you to do, give me the money like you say you're going to give me the money. Do what you say you're going to do. And that's a much more abstract meaning, meaning that the result that you say is going to happen actually comes through into reality. That you can think of it that way. That one I'd have to pinpoint the logic to maybe explain it a bit better, but I think that's understandable. With get through, I don't want to go too deep into get because I can easily spend several hours talking about that. And I will have a course at some point in the future talking about Git and the logic and feeling of Git. That's something I'm actually exploring and developing with some students right now. It's actually very fascinating and interesting. But get through, again, there could be many different contexts. Get often has this idea of maybe some sort of effort compared to, say, go or come, because I can go across the street or I can get across the street. Go just sounds like a description, like, okay, I'm here, I go there. Where get across the street sounds more like maybe there's lots of traffic, there's, something, there's an accident, there's something in the way that's, maybe is either blocking me and I have to maybe go around or over, or just something that maybe I have to wait because there's too many cars, whatever. Okay. So it has a little extra feeling to it compared to just going or coming somewhere. And then through would be through something. So I don't know, again, if you're trying to call somebody, instead of saying go through or come through, maybe I'm calling and it keeps giving me a busy signal, right? Boop, 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 boop. And I say the call won't go through, meaning it won't connect at all. Very similar to come through and go through in this context. But we can say, or see, what am I saying? I said go through. Okay. Yeah, no, see, I confused myself because I'm talking about go and come at the same time. Okay, hold on. Get through, get through, get through. Okay, so yeah, again, busy signal I'm calling. Like I can't get the call to go through. That's a little bit different to get something to happen. You can maybe say that, but get through to somebody. Okay. I can't get through to him. This means that he won't listen to me, right? So it's not about like he can't hear me. It's not like a call or something, right? But I'm trying to explain something to him. I'm trying to say like, oh, this is why you can or can't do this, or this is why this is a bad idea, or whatever. And he doesn't want to hear what I have to say. What he thinks is correct, and he ignores my view. But I'm trying to make him understand what I'm saying, okay, or to get him to listen to me, right? To actually consider my perspective. And if he keeps blocking that and he just ignores me, or maybe he just can't understand what I'm saying for whatever reason, he can't put the pieces together for some reason. I can say I can't get through to him. So there's again an obstacle like the traffic, like to get across the street. But and I'm trying to put an effort to get him to understand or to listen to me. But the obstacle is his lack of ability to understand, or his choosing to not listen. And I'm trying to get through that obstacle, like trying to get through a wall. Okay, so I hope that helps. I know it's very abstract and it's probably not the best explanation, but hopefully that kind of points you in the right direction for through. Again, I will talk more about that in the future. Ahmet, do you pronounce myriad, mirror, Syria, distinct, sync with the first vowel sound for the vowels before NG and R? Well, how did I just say them? Myriad, myriad. So myriad can be myriad, 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 myriad. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of a different word. Yeah, so the way that I teach you guys the R-colored first/second vowel, ear, there are some words that I've noticed that like myriad or spirit, that I naturally I use more of like a second vowel sound going to R instead of a first vowel sound. But if I say it with a first vowel sound, spirit, myriad, it doesn't sound bad. It sounds perfectly acceptable, and I hear people say it that way. So um, there are some words that start with ear or ear, however you want to say it. Usually, we don't really hear much of a difference between them because they're so close. But in some words, you actually can hear a bit of a difference. It doesn't really matter. With mirror, which can be reduced to mirror, as I mentioned, I think last time David asked about that. Mirror, just an ear sound. Mirror, mirror. You can say mirror with an I. You can say mirror with like more of an E sound. Mirror. Either way, it doesn't matter. So first vowel or second vowel is fine. Syria, 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 Syria. I've heard both of them. I use both of them. Whichever one comes out, it doesn't really matter. Distinct. Okay. Distinct doesn't have an NG or an R. Distinct. Yeah, it uses the back N because of the K there, so I know what you're talking about. Before the back N. Because when I see NG, I don't think of it as I think of it as when I'm talking about pronunciation, because a lot of learners make that mistake. But yes, you're correct. You're talking about that's why I call it the back N, because it's not as confusing. And it's more clear to learners. But distinct. You can say it both ways. It does not matter. I use more of an E, the first vowel, but using the second vowel, I've heard people do that. Whichever way it comes out, it doesn't matter. And then we talked about also a sync. I talked about that in the lesson. It was either the lesson about the ng sound, the back end, or the ing hack. I don't remember. It was in one of those, but again, many people, like I think in general American, that's one of the differences, one of the minor differences where they'll use the second vowel. They'll say like sync, distinct, um, where I tend to use more of the first vowel, sync, distinct, right? Or thing. And again, it does not matter. It absolutely does not matter in these words. So for the R color, first vowel, second vowel, ear or air, sometimes you might hear a bit of a difference, but generally it does not matter which one you use. If it's easier for you to say ear instead of air, just do ear. Myriad, mirror, Syria, no problem at all whatsoever. With the vowel sound, either e or I before again, it really does not matter. There might be some words where it matters, but I don't think so. Again, the way I speak is going to be more with the first vowel, but you're going to sound fine either way. So, do people notice that you use the first vowel sound before ng sound? I don't think so. I mean, maybe they do and they don't say anything. Now that I'm more aware of this and I can actually kind of consciously hear a difference, I am noticing people use more and the because remember, I usually actually change, it's like with sync, I'm still going to go to the back for but if it's ng, like actually like say walking, I don't go in the back, I go in the front. So if it's added ing and they hear me use a regular n, plus an E, maybe they might notice a difference. I don't really think so because it's such a subtle, small thing, the difference between one and two in these combinations, not in isolation. And the difference between n and in the flow of fast speech. In the past, I never noticed anybody using the second vowel and the back N for like the added ing. And I'm sure that, the average person from the Midwest or wherever usually doesn't notice me change it to an E because it's such a small little thing. Okay. Ahmed, if you're talking, if an N becomes yeah, it does. If it's preceded by the KG sound, the KG sound, it'll become the sound. Well, I don't think that's what he's talking about. But I think that is also generally true. Yeah, preceded by, wait, so if an, oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. If it's like N plus K or N plus G, generally, yes, that's true. Okay, David, I do like the bright and open short O of Midwestern accents. Well, that's cool. No problem with that. Again, your pronunciation is completely, we would say, tailorable. It's choosable because there might be something that takes so much work. You can get it, but it might just take so much work that it's not worth it to you to put in that much work. Maybe you get it like really, really good, but not perfect like a native. And you say, I'm fine with how it is now. Okay. Or you say, hey, I like the sound more from this accent rather than from this accent. And if it might give you a bit of a weird combined English accent. But if you're okay with that, you can choose that. Like you don't have to stick to one distinct dialect and speak exactly like that, unless that's what you want. Like me in Spanish, I focus mostly on the Mexican pronunciation, which throughout Mexico there's some variation, but sort of like the Mexico City where all the media comes out of type accent. But as I was exposed to, the Spain accent, the Colombian accent, Venezuelan accent, Argentinian accent, I didn't really change a whole lot, but I sort of became a little looser with certain things that are kind of variable between them and are a little interchangeable. Like instead of saying y, some speakers say j, and I kind of use both. So I was like, I don't care. Sometimes I sound a little like, oh, maybe he's from this place or that place. I was like, whatever comes out, that's fine. Alejandro, that's why I prefer a Californian accent. Yeah, it's easier, I think. Well, not necessarily a Californian accent, the Western accent. Californian specifically, not the California O, but like an actual general Californian accent, as in like more of like a surfer sound. That's what I consider the Californian accent, where it's like, hey, brah, you know. They have like the vowels are kind of moved around a bit. It's a little more open. It's kind of exaggerated, but I don't speak that way. Okay, forlornness, Bay accent is like a refined Midwestern accent. I suppose when I listen to people from the Bay Area, up in San Francisco, I mean, I haven't sat and like scrutinized their accent, and I mean, there's only a handful of people that like I've listened to from the Bay Area, so I don't have a lot of like direct exposure to it either. But when I do hear people, they say they're from the Bay Area, like in a video or something. I don't really notice much difference from how I speak. So it's probably SoCal judging by what it looks like. For the California accent, I would disagree with that, but I don't know. Forlornness, thank you for the tip. Yeah. Okay, you can definitely hear an accent difference between NorCal and SoCal. At least if you try to. I'm sure if I focused on it, I'd probably notice some differences. There are certain regional differences, like I think in Bakersfield, that's where they have the pin-pen merger. So instead of saying, "Can you give me a pen?" they'll say, "Can you give me a pin?" I'm pretty sure it goes that way, not the other way. Um, and then there's certain little regional pockets here and there, but um, I don't know. Some people just speak weird from different places. Cockout sounds okay. They still have merger, but it's less outstanding. They say that much more, especially after W. So can you say a sentence where men and bed are used instead of man and bad, like when spoken really fast? Yeah. So well, I was mumbling to myself when I was analyzing it. Yeah. So like, wait, hold on. Oh yeah. Okay. I want to make sure we didn't reverse that. So if I say like I see a man, okay, I see a man. I see a man over there. Okay. If I say it really, really fast and lazily, I see a man over there. I see a man. I see a man over there. I see a man. Now it's still likely to come out as man with the lazy ah, but it's possible that maybe we don't quite, and that's fine. Again, it's fast and lazy, not just fast, not just lazy. Or bad. So saying bed instead of bad. Saying like I had a bad day. Okay. Even had actually could will probably reduce down to head a bit if I'm speaking really quickly and lazily. I had a bad day. I had a bad day. I had the H actually might disappear and connect with a y. I had a bad day. I had a bad day. That's like super really fast speech. And for some of you watching, you're like, what? What did he just say? But yeah, we can speak that fast. We don't always speak that fast, but it does happen. Time, Time, typo. Time to have the haha, you said an X word, Joshua, you finally sinned, but for a good cause, because there's deaf people, you don't know what it means. What? Are you talking about going back to the F word? Because that was a while ago. Yeah, that has to be it. Yeah, okay, got it. Do you also merge? So merger is the noun, but merge with no R at the end is the verb. So to merge something. Do you also merge cot for lawyer? Meaning, do you say, yeah. So this is a good question. And I talked about this in a couple videos. I know I talked about it in the diphthong oi video. The interesting thing about the cot merger is that not I just said not. I had, yeah. See, it can happen. Not all of the merging goes to that position. There are some combinations which would be oi, and or, that instead of being said with an aw sound, they move up to o. So instead of saying r, which I never heard before, but again, now that I'm much more aware and conscious of these things, I do hear some people say it that way. Um, which it sounds very strange to me. It like I can feel it in my soul, and it feels, I don't want to say wrong because it's not wrong, but it feels strange. Ugh, I don't know. It's weird. But that's fine. It's the unmerged way to say it, right? So the R-colored O, as I call it in other dialects, and this is also, I think, part of the Midwestern General American, is with ah, R, and then oi is oi, oi, oi. And I actually noticed there's a Pink song, the artist Pink. I don't know if you guys listen to her. I listen to some songs by her, and there's this one song. I think it's called "Love Me Anyway." I've been listening to that on and off recently. And I noticed that towards the beginning of the song, she says the word noise and she says the word voice, but she says noise and voice, noise, voice. And I'm probably not doing it perfectly because I don't speak that way, but I was like, oh, hey, that's the unmerged Cockout merger. So in the way, for people who have the Cockout merger, like myself, oi is O plus E. Oi. It's not oi, it's oi, oi. And that's how I speak. That's how I teach you guys. I think it's easier that way, especially since I teach you with the Cockout merger. I'm not going to teach you the oi way because I don't speak that way and it unmerges everything. But if you want to say it that way, you can. That's your choice. With or, instead of saying, for people, like far people, it sounds weird to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying it bad. I can't really imagine somebody saying it that way, but then I hear people say things this way because they do. I would say for people, or. So it's an O, not an aw. So most of the words where there's nothing special, it's not like a diphthong type combination. It's just ah, basically just a vowel. In the merger, they kind of just go into the one spot. But when we have the combination oi or, there might be another one, it actually moves up to o as the root instead of ah. So because there's a difference between r and or, so we couldn't merge down to ah because then we'd say far meaning for, and that doesn't work. So let's see. Yeah, all of us beat around the bush with the F and I'll say P words. Sometimes we use a lot of other words for it. Yeah, exactly. I'm tone deaf then. Maybe. I don't know. Fina equals fixed to? What? That doesn't even make any sense. What? What? Fina, fixing? Okay, fina is almost a dead word to say. Not that many people would use it, I guess. Fina is fixing to. I just hear it in rap songs. Oh, see, I added the it. My brain added the it there. I just hear it in rap songs and memes. Okay, well, me personally, I've never heard that. Let me see if I think of in rap music. I don't listen to a whole lot of rap music. It's one of the. I mean, I listen to some rap music. I like Eminem, and some other things, but rap is not generally. I like most music, but rap is one of the genres that I don't care too much for. Same with heavy metal. Um, Maybe I just never noticed it because maybe I just didn't understand the lyrics. If I ever heard somebody say that, but that's extremely strange to me. I have no idea why that. Like if it were like fixta, where they sort of drop the D and then sort of just flowed fix into two, fixta, maybe make it more of a D sound. Like I can maybe see that, but if it's fixing to, I'm fixing to, which means like I'm getting ready to do something, I'm planning to do something. That would definitely wouldn't be fixed to. I'm fixed to do. That means that would mean something different, if anything. So, well, slightly different, but it doesn't mean exactly the same thing. Fixing to, fixing to, fixing to. Well, the normal thing we might do is change the T into more of a D. Fixing to, fixing to. I'm fixing to leave. Fixing to leave. That sounds very natural. But finna, I have no idea. Like, fi- I have. I'm just baffled. I'm absolutely baffled why they would put an N there. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I've never heard that. But I guess it exists. Okay, interesting. Um, Lost my spot again. There's so much. There's so much, you guys. I can't keep up. Okay. An hour and 35 minutes, and I just keep getting farther and farther behind. Okay. Have you heard people around you saying "isn't" or "isn't" and "wouldn't" or for "wasn't"? Oh, okay, for not or. What's that all about? Okay, so "isn't" like if I say "isn't like that, isn't like that." Let me hear. Let me hear. Yeah, yeah. This is sort of a strange case. It's a bit more informal, and it's definitely very lazy. Um, it has to do partially with how the N and the T are working here. Um, and because these are function words, is and was, and not so much, well, I mean, I guess they could be content words depending on how we're using them, but like if I say, like, isn't he finished? Is he finished? Any, and I wouldn't put it as a D there, like maybe because it's not idn't, like maybe sometimes I guess, but I would say we're just kind of dropping the Z sound. We're saying int. Um, and there's a little bit of a special thing going on there in the nose. It's not just straight but yeah, int, or wouldn't. Wasn't he supposed to be here? Wasn't he supposed to be here? Yeah, it's just a faster, more informal way. Um, Definitely not standard, but you will hear it. I use it myself. I've noticed it a few times that I use it. Um, Getting back to shadowing questions, I end up being loud sometimes. How long will it take to see any improvements, and will I need constant feedback? How well does it help with pronunciation, though? How well does it help with pronunciation? We can start there. It is the supreme pronunciation exercise, and is, as far as I know, the only real way to master a any type of accent, even if that's just another accent that's in your own language. And again, there's no one like right way to do it necessarily, but there are definitely wrong ways to do it. And I'm going to leave you in suspense for a second as I use the restroom. Okay. So there's an unfortunate truth about shadowing and about accent reduction. Um, Talent is a factor. It's, and when I say that, I mean it's a factor. Okay, you don't have to be talented to master the pronunciation of another language. Um, if you do happen to be talented, things are going to go a lot easier and a lot faster for you. You still have to put in the work, but you're not going to have to put in as much work. So that's one detail. So if you're not talented, expect for it to take longer. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take many, many years, but it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take consistent effort. Okay, so that's the first point. The second thing, how do I want to approach this? The reason why I recommend shadowing the way that I do is because I think that it is the most thorough, foolproof method. Unfortunately, that also makes it the most tedious method. But it's the method that I myself use, more or less. I have some dynamic ways that I use it on the fly as well. But it's, using it with other students. It's the way that I've seen them improve dramatically. Even if before they tried shadowing, they tried my way of shadowing and they actually saw improvement where maybe before they didn't, or they didn't see as much improvement as they wanted. And I have one student right now who is doing extremely fantastic. He is well on his way to complete accent removal if he wants. He's at the point where he's starting to be able to say the sentences that he's working with exactly like a native, exactly 100% like a native. Now, in his actual speech, it's still not quite there yet. Okay, there's going to be a bit of a lag, but he's developing the very consistent and clear ability that came out weird, ability to maybe not straight away, but after maybe he kind of listens to a little bit, practices a little bit, he can replicate it exactly like a native speaker. That's part of the process. Okay. How long will it take to see improvements? Again, there's lots of variables, like if you're talented or not. Let's assume you're not. The other big variable is how close are you paying attention? And are you recording yourself? You don't have to record yourself, but sometimes, right, from inside our own heads, we think we're saying something a certain way, and then you listen to a recording of yourself and you're like, oh, I'm not saying it that way. So you do need feedback, okay? Whether that's feedback in the form of a recording, a feedback in the form of your own ears, which if you have good listening, it will get you up to a certain point very, very well. Probably needs some feedback from some other people at some point. But the recording helps make it more objective and you can actually hear a bit of a difference there maybe. Spending some time with a tutor, like if you know what you're doing and you know like how to make micro adjustments and stuff, you just need a native speaker to tell you if you sound good or not. So it doesn't have to be some big thing, necessarily. But if you have someone like me, which again, I'm not accepting new students, but if you have somebody like me who has a really good ear, who is knowledgeable about this, and who has a way to actually give you feedback that tells you, the little tricks or little things that you can do with your tongue to try to find the right sound, that's going to help speed up the process and make it a lot easier. And some sounds are going to be very, very difficult, right? They're going to take you a lot longer to do, even though, you might be making general progress with everything else. And that's okay. You just have to keep practicing those sounds or certain combinations of sounds on the side. I guess that's sort of my general answer. Know that it's going to take some time. You have to be consistent. You have to be observant. If you want to look up some other ways to do shadowing, I'm probably going to make a video about this at some time in the future, but Professor Argelis, he's the guy that I originally heard about shadowing from. He has a YouTube channel. There's also, what's that guy's name? Jay something, I forget. He's one of the polyglots that I didn't pay as much attention to as the other ones. Jay something, I forget. If you type in like Jay polyglot or something, shadowing, you might find him. I don't remember his last name. I think his first name is Jay. He talks a bit about shadowing and the way that he does it. Luca Lampariello. I don't remember him specifically using the term shadowing, but he talks a lot about pronunciation, accent reduction. He's from Italy, And I don't know if he's come to the United States yet, but when he was developing his English accent, he had never been to the United States. And with a couple little sounds, little details here and there that I can catch from him, he sounds 99% like he was born in the United States without ever having come here. So obviously he knows what he's talking about. And then of course my favorite, Idausa Ness. Looks like Idahosa, but it's pronounced Idausa. I've learned a lot about pronunciation from him and how to do things. He's had a pretty big influence on how I perceive the best way to learn a language, and starting with pronunciation first, sound first, all this stuff. And I've taken some ideas from him, like the term babbling I took from him. But he, again, I also don't know if he uses the word shadowing specifically. He also talks a lot about like using rhythm and music to master the flow of a language. He talks a lot about flow. But obviously he's going to have some form of shadowing practice built into his stuff, whether he uses the term or not. And then one more person, Donovan Nagel. He's another polyglot. He calls it parroting instead of shadowing. And he talks a bit about it as well. Those are the main people. Benny Lewis might talk about it too. I know he does pronunciation work, but I don't think he focuses a lot on that when he talks about it, talks about languages. You can look those people up for shadowing and find some like slightly different variations of different ideas. Like Professor Argelli says that, you should, whenever you're like, you should find a dialogue, you should stand up straight and pace back and forth because it helps to engage your brain to learn better as you are, clearly trying to enunciate each line in the dialogue after you hear it. And that works for him. That's it's kind of weird. You don't have to pace back and forth, but it can definitely help. It does help engage your brain. So again, you can explore more about that, maybe put together your own thing. But it is going to take some time. It is going to take some practice. It's going to take observation. The more work you put in, if you're putting in the right work, the faster you're going to learn up to a certain point. Keep in mind that world-class performers, whether it's music, athletes, whatever, world-class performers, according to studies, past 4 to 6 hours in a day of practice or study shows little to no return. So up to 4 to 6 hours of intense, deliberate, focused practice is sort of the limit for the human brain in a day. So if you're spending, say, 6 to 8 hours spinning your wheels trying to do pronunciation work, you're actually probably wasting some time. So that's something to keep in mind as well. For general efficiency of learning things, you also might want to check out Tim Ferriss. If you've heard of him, I don't know. I always forget how to spell his name. I don't know if there's 2 S's or not, but he's also a polyglot. He talks a bit about languages, but he talks about just learning things in general. And he has something called MED, which is an acronym for minimal effective dose. And he always tries to find the med in anything that he's trying to do. Like, what's the minimal amount of like most effective, impactful work that I can do to get in, the least amount of repetitions possible and get the biggest benefit to maximize the return on investment, or ROI, as we say. It's usually a finance term, but return on investment. So you can also learn a lot from him, maybe not directly foreshadowing, but for, tuning up your efficiency in general. And of course, you're listening to him, you're reading him on his blog or whatever. He has a YouTube channel. You're going to get more exposure to English as well. So it's a win-win. Okay. Today is Korean New Year, lunar calendar. Happy New Year. Oh, Happy New Year. Yay. I think it's also Chinese New Year, right? Somewhere around there. I didn't know. Actually, I didn't know Korean had the Koreans followed the lunar. Yeah, lunar. Lunar. We need an R there. Luna is the word for moon, but not in English. um, so they're related. But anyway, yeah, I didn't know Koreans followed the lunar calendar. That's interesting. I know the Chinese do. So very nice. Happy New Year. Hope you have a good year and you learn a lot of English. Hopefully we all have a good year this year compared to last year. I mean, set the bar pretty low there, but we'll see. Um, are we talking about that accent tag vid? Well, we were, yes. Back when I was not caught up to this comment. I know that one. I know that one just by judging what's going on. Oh, so you've seen it. Interesting. Title is dialect tag West Coast. Yeah. See, you could have just put that. I could have looked for it. The guy stops the th sound and makes a dental T. Yes, yes, he definitely does. And that's something that, like, if I were watching that video and I wasn't paying like super, super, super close attention, I probably wouldn't have even noticed that he did a dental T or dental D. No, yeah, dental T because it's a voiceless th. We were talking about dental D earlier with the voice, so that's where my mind went. But theater. It's so common and natural. We usually don't notice it. Oh yeah, there's a funny one. Type California accent tag. Was funny as hell. You say want differently. It doesn't sound like that. Dave is right about it. I mean, your last video, look at your mouth shape. It hits O hard, not an A. Sounds like an O then an ah. California ah are that close, and it's hard to hear the difference. They're not that separated as the sound. So okay, California accent tag. Yeah, I saw one of those like YouTube short videos a while ago where I guess it was a similar type of thing, but somebody was being interviewed and they were told to say certain words, and I guess they're from Chicago, so they're supposed to have a Chicago accent. Which some people from Chicago, like they have a very clear accent to me, like Chicago. I'm from Chicago, where other people from Chicago, I notice almost no difference at all in how they speak compared to what I would expect. So let me see here. California accent tag. Dun, dun, dun. You said guy, but I see a girl in the first result. Is it Los Angeles, Southern California, West Coast? I see two videos. Oh my God, go away. Yeah, I'll come back to that. I've noticed you do it the rounded ah. Yeah. It's not as rounded as the East ah, but if you say your usual ah and round your lips ever so slightly, that's the sound. Some Canadians always round ah. Yeah. When you say the exclamation ah, as in ah, I see, I get it now, or it's a little bit different, but close enough. Would you say the quality can be fronter? I don't think fronter is correct, or front. Fronter sounds weird to me. Quality can be fronter, more front than the back. Ah. Or maybe you meant fronted more than the back ah, because that would make sense. Too fronted. And what vowel do you use in? Okay, so when you say the exclamation ah as an ah, I see. Ah, ah. Would you say the quality can be more to the front than the back ah? Ah, I see. I see. I see. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm gonna talk about that. And what vowel do you use in na? Na or nah? Na or nah? Either way is fine. Na sounds more hip hop, more like I guess rap hip hop, kind of ghetto type sound. Like nah, man. Where nah is not, I guess. Like nah, it's all right, no problem. Um, Same spelling, same word, two different pronunciations. So na is definitely going to sound more informal, if nothing else. Where na already is informal compared to no, but it doesn't like na sounds like it's nearing more like slang level of informal. So at least in my experience. As for as in I see, one thing that I've noticed, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes for those of us with the merger, right, it's not just sometimes we say ah, sometimes we also say ah. um, and I don't even know if I hit that right because I probably went to the Spanish ah, because I don't consciously do that. I don't know exactly where it is. It just kind of happens sometimes. Um, so it's very possible that if I say ah, I see like I guess that's kind of where the unmerged sound is, where normally it's I see I see. So probably because it's such a shallow sound. It's supposed to be short. So, like, there's usually sort of an exclamation. We might put, sort of a comma or whatever, depending. But it's like ah. Maybe it gets fronted a little bit, but it could be farther back as well. Like okay, okay, and that's fine. So there's variation in the position. Again, that's when we have I forget what those are called, where we have like little sounds or whatever for certain things, like a sound of surprise, like or whatever. Um, Sometimes there's a wider range of possible variation, where it's not necessarily always going to hit the exact same sound, and that's okay. But which vowel do you use for what? I think they listed only the British pronunciation dictionaries. So I use what I call the schwa, but which in IPA is the upside down V. So it's the not true schwa, or as I described in my recent video about the truth about the schwa, it's the fully enunciated version of what we call the schwa, which is what. Now, of course, this word sometimes it's stressed if it's used in a WH question. It's not stressed if it's used as a link, like that's what I wanted. It's usually not stressed. But for this upside down V sound, as I mentioned multiple times and in that video, when we're speaking quickly and or lazily, that upside down V will very naturally reduce into more of a closed actual true schwa position, and it'll just come out as an actual schwa. So it'll be what, what do you want? What's that? Okay. What, instead of what. Okay. Good question. Sounds like a schwa to me. Definitely not a schwa. Definitely not a schwa. Let me say, let's see, what was the like, I see. I see. It almost sounds like you're disgusted, like, I see. Definitely not a schwa sound. Let's see. Midwest, California, and East sounds are so different. My New York friends hit it the hardest. Well, let's see. California. Are we talking about? Well, I guess you're talking about California, not like Western American, or are you just talking about general West Coast? Because I don't know how to address that. We need to clarify. If it's Midwest versus Western versus Eastern, so sort of like the three parts of the country, I would agree with that. I know Midwest they usually have the unmerged and then on the East Coast, especially in New York, there's differences. There's differences. It's called a New York accent, even though there's actually not just one New York accent, but it's called a New York accent for a reason, or a Boston accent if it's Boston, in Massachusetts, kind of in that area, that northeastern area. Yeah, so I think, let's see, New Yorker. I saw him. I saw a man. I saw a man. I don't even know if I'm doing man right, but I saw, or I need some coffee. That might be more Boston accent. Coffee, qua. Where they kind of change it that way. Maybe that's not what you're thinking of, but anyway, like so enunciated when they say it, like water, prawns, water. Give me some water. I want some prawns. I think kind of like that, maybe. I don't know. I'm not an expert on all the accents in English. I know what you're saying though. Up in the northeastern area, they very clearly enunciate in a special way this ah sound. I feel that they front that it gets close to IPA symbols in Michigan and Wisconsin. Yeah, so if we're talking about Michigan and Wisconsin, obviously not all the people, but in the northern states, like the middle northern states, there was a vowel shift that happened. I think it's still happening. But this they'll say I don't know about the ah, like what they do with ah, but I know with ah, um, they make it like yeah, cat, cat. Oh, I saw a cat. I saw a cat. There's like a really thick like Minnesota accent. Minnesota. I saw two license plates from Minnesota the other day. I was like, what? Why are Minnesotans in California? That's weird. But anyway, I'm from Minnesota. There is a video that will show up if you search for a Michigan accent. A teenager talks about that. Thanks, guys. Nice to get your feedback as well. You say ink funny. Yeah, it is ink. I heard you say think as think too sometimes. Yes, because that's how I say it. I use the first vowel, E. Sometimes it'll come out as probably just because, just like sometimes ah comes out unmerged. I'll sometimes just hit but Western American replaces the before with E. So think, ink. That's the way that I speak. Very good. And that's the way I teach you guys. But you can use the second vowel sound if you want. That's not a problem. Free Michigan accent, armchair expert with Dax Shepard. He's from Detroit. Free Michigan accent? I don't know why it's free. Okay. And fun content. Also, did you ever get to native like pronunciation in Spanish or any other language? So that's a good question, right? Because I'm always talking about pronunciation. Okay. I would, through most of my life, since the age of about 13, I had attempted to teach myself one language or another, without really knowing what I was doing. Taking classes, reading books that I found online, whatever. I started with Japanese, a little bit of Spanish. I failed Spanish in high school. And let's see. Got into college, was super excited to finally be able to take Japanese class because I thought I could finally learn Japanese. The first semester, I learned literally like almost nothing new because I had already taught myself that much, and it was all still very academic. It had very little to do with pronunciation. I learned a bit about the pronunciation there, but not too much new. And second semester Japanese, I learned quite a bit of things in terms of knowledge, but my ability to use them, I didn't know I have to practice. Just like most people, they think you study it and eventually you'll just speak it, but that's not how it works. Third semester of Japanese, I learned a bit more, and then that was the end of my Japanese in college. So teaching myself Spanish for a while, like this is after high school. I still didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to use this resource, that resource, and I went back to college for one semester because I had time, and I decided to take a Spanish class since I hadn't taken a Spanish class since high school. Don't worry, I'm getting to your question. I know this sounds like a long explanation. Don't worry. And because of what I had studied over the summer and taught myself over the summer, in terms of my knowledge, not really ability, in terms of my knowledge, I was able to skip Spanish 1 and go straight into Spanish 2. And again, I got a bit of knowledge from the class. I really didn't learn a whole lot because, loud planes fly by. I don't know if you guys can hear that. but schools really aren't that great at teaching languages. And so it wasn't until I moved to Arizona, where I was away from home. The person I moved in with was someone that I knew from high school who was also currently my roommate here, one of my roommates. And so he was the only person I knew. I made a couple other friends there, but I really didn't know anybody there. Um, I had quite a bit of time because we were trying to start up a small business, and we would go to the farmers markets. We were trying to sell organic deodorants and stuff that we were making. That failed. I had to get a part-time job delivering sandwiches in downtown Tucson on my bike, which was not fun, especially when it rained in the monsoon season and I got completely soaked. Still had to deliver those sandwiches. And I really hated that. I said, no more of this. So it wasn't until then, when I had no distractions. I didn't really have a lot of friends around to, take up my time. Um, I was working part time, and I said, I'm gonna sit down, figure out actually how to like learn a language, and because I don't want to work these stupid jobs. This was before I found italki. In fact, I found italki, as I said before, because of this series of events, and then I ended up teaching English. But at that point, I still really had almost no idea how to learn a language. I didn't know that I had to speak in order to speak it. I didn't know anything about the different techniques. I didn't know anything about polyglots or the online community. And it was through this process, when I had time and I finally got really, really serious and sat down, I said, I'm going to learn this. Um, and I realized I have to speak. So I got a speaking partner, and I was totally terrified to do it, but I did it anyway. And I got another speaking partner, and I was trying to speak, at least a few hours a week if I could. Um, and I was listening. I was exploring ideas from all these polyglots and trying different things for speaking, reading, listening, writing, getting ideas, just constantly researching. And in that process, I didn't really know anything about pronunciation. I didn't know the importance of pronunciation or the benefit of it, and the ear training. Luckily for me, I do have at least some talent in this area. I was actually tested uh, by the U.S. military, which is a different story that I won't go into. But I was tested by the U.S. military for my language aptitude, like how easily it would be for me to learn a language if they just gave me a random language. And I scored very high on that, not the highest that you could possibly get, but much higher than the average person. So um, I know that I do have some sort of talent for this, and that helps. Because of that, probably, even though I knew nothing about pronunciation, I was very interested in pronunciation. I like sounds. I like the idea of mastering a new set of sounds, and trying to sound like a native speaker. And so, as I was, practicing speaking with my speaking partner, I started looking at the sounds and exploring how does Spanish pronunciation work. And so, I had to build all of this from the ground up with no training, no idea what I was doing. Um, and my Spanish pronunciation, you can ask any Spanish speaker who I talk to, my Spanish pronunciation is pretty solid. It's not perfect. It doesn't sound exactly like a native. And the reason why is because, first, everything that I explained, I spent so much energy, a lot of it spinning my wheels on things that didn't work in language learning and in pronunciation, or things that just didn't work for me. Different things I was trying, because I had to figure it out all on my own. Um, that by the time I got to a point where my speaking was fluid enough, like I was pretty much conversational, I knew that I still had a problem with the R, the rolled R, not the single tap R, the full trilled R. Um, and I had a couple of combination problems. Like if there was, I think like in the word problema, that was always a problem for me because there was like pre close to bl. And if I was trying to say that quickly, my tongue would get kind of tied up. Um, so it wasn't 100% perfect. The R was definitely the worst thing. Um, Most everything else was either perfect or almost perfect. And in fact, I one of my Spanish partners, I talked to her a lot, like a lot. I've talked to this woman so much. And I asked her towards the end of my like really active Spanish study before I decided to stop studying it so much. Um, I asked her for her honest opinion, and I knew she would give me her honest opinion. I said, "Would you say that in general, I sound pretty much like a native?" And she said, "Yes, in fact, with the exception of a few sounds, you sound Mexican, and you might even fool native speakers. Not if they talk to you for a long time, but there's a chance that you could maybe temporarily fool a native speaker." That's what she said. Um, Not perfect though, and I know that. And I did not have the energy or the will at the time to improve my R. And remember, I told you guys this many, many times. The rolled R, right? The trilled R, that was physically impossible for me to do when I started. Physically impossible. There was no way, shape, or form that I could possibly do that with my tongue. And it took me 6 months of daily practice and playing with the sound and trying to do it and trying different things and doing tongue twisters and just trying to get my tongue, paying very close attention. Oh, if I do it this way, if I do it this way, if I increase the airflow, if I, all these little micro adjustments. 6 months for this one very complicated, difficult sound that is very difficult for non-native Spanish speakers. Well, particularly for English speakers who are non-native Spanish speakers. And I managed to get to the point where I can do it. Maybe it doesn't sound perfect. Maybe it doesn't always come out properly, but I can do it. The rest of my Spanish flows extremely well. Y por ejemplo, aunque no hablo mucho de español hoy mismo y quizá mi gramática no sea perfecta, creo que si hay algunos hispanohablantes en el chat, me pueden decir, sí, me pueden decir si sueno como nativo. Soy muy, muy fuera de práctica. Okay, so what I was saying there, speaking Spanish for a second, I was saying if there are any Spanish speakers in the chat, they can maybe tell me if I sound like a Spanish speaker. Or like a native. Maybe it's not quite like a native. And I also said I'm very out of practice because I am very out of practice. I don't speak much Spanish these days. So to answer your question, because I also have I think a fairly decent German accent, even though I really don't speak German because I started with the pronunciation. There's some sounds that are very difficult in German, but I think I sound fairly good compared to the average person, especially considering the amount of work that I put into it, which is relatively little. And let's see, Japanese. Apparently, I sound pretty good, but my biggest problem in Japanese is the stress and the pitch accent, because that's something I didn't even know about when I was learning Japanese in the past. Because nobody tells you about these things because they don't think it's important, but it is. But anyway, so to answer your question, did I ever get to a native-like pronunciation in Spanish or any other language? In Spanish, I would say maybe native-like generally, but not exactly. So close to native, perhaps. But that's also partially by choice because I did not have the timer. Well, I had the time, but I did not have the energy or the will at that point to really try to improve the R. Maybe in the future I will, because there's other languages like Russian that use the exact same R sound, and I want to learn Russian. So, maybe in the future I will take the time to actually perfect it, especially now that I know what I'm doing and I can build it from the ground up and really put in the extra effort to fully master the sound. Valley Girl accent is the best. Like, oh my God. It totally is. Like, I'm not a Valley Girl. I don't know. But yeah, that's why millennials and I assume after Gen Z, because like my parents' generation, Gen X, they don't use like as a filler word. They don't say, oh, it's like really interesting. They don't say that, but millennials say that, and Gen Z says that, and that's because of Valley Girls. It comes from Valley Girls. Same thing with totally. Oh, it's totally awesome, or totes. My roommate and I use totes jokingly. Oh yeah, that's totes cool. Yeah. um, so anyway, Cal accents. What's it? Surfer Valley Girl. That's it. Pretty much. Yeah. Surfer Valley Girl. The Pin Pen merger in Bakersfield, and then just Western American. No, I mean there's some more variation than that, but um, for me, I love the Chicano English accent. Yeah, there's also that too. Um, yeah, Chicano. For those of you who don't know, that's kind of it's like it's like how I speak, but laced with like more of a Spanish sound. Um, and it does sound cool. Um, but I have some Southern friends who have the pin pen merger. Oh, cool. But the sounds are still different. The classic "eh" for fit and the one for fed. Interesting. Fed. Hmm. Yeah. Um, Ahmet retracted a message. Could the high schwa, David asked, could the high schwa become just ordinary schwa sound in the lazy and fast speech? No, just in lazy and fast speech. If you say the, it sounds like we're comparing. We're comparing, which I mean, I guess we are comparing the lazy and fast to the not lazy and slow, but there's no reason to compare them with like to point it out the specifically with this. Anyway, no the. Um, okay, so could the high schwa become ordinary schwa sound in lazy and fast speech? In words like foot, good, look. That was a good look. Let's see. On your foot. On your foot. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Put the shoe on your foot. 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 No. No, no, no. Maybe put the shoe on your foot. Foot, 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 foot. Okay, let's see. Good. Say a good and look. Let's see. Take a good look. Take a good look. Good look. Good look. Good look. Take a good look. Take a good look. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. No, not quite. Not quite. In fast and lazy speech, it can get closer to a schwa for sure. It can definitely get closer to schwa. And depending on the word, like their foot is a high schwa, but with a schwa is not a word, right? And so in that case, if you're speaking really fast and lazily, maybe it might hit a schwa. And because we don't have a word that actually uses the schwa, it's going to be fine. But like if you're saying there's look and luck, right? So if I say like if I tell you like, oh, good luck, right? Versus good look. If I try to reduce look to luck, but really, really fast, um, good luck, good luck, good luck, good luck, good luck. It sounds like I'm saying luck. And you may not even hear what's going on there. I don't know. But it sounds to me more like luck instead of look. And the context maybe will make it clear, but then it'll just sound kind of weird. Like, oh, take a good look, right? Take a good look. Take a good look. It doesn't work. It sounds like luck. So I would say no, but possibly if there's no minimal pair there. I would generally stay away from that. Oi and O share the same beginning of the diphthongs, or is the sound in the unmerged for I guess. Not according to what I've seen and heard. Um, wait, O and O for the yeah. Well, I've seen plenty of people start oi with the aw, the unmerged ah. Because since I started noticing it, I was like, that's really weird. And so it stands out a lot to me now. Like I said, with that song from Pink, she does not say noise and voice. She says more like noise and voice. But anyway, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. As I said, how I teach you guys oi, o, or. They all start with o. It's just easier that way, but you can do whatever you want. Let's see here. At least for the California accent. So yeah, I would definitely disagree. I mean, maybe if we're talking California accent, like a surfer accent, possibly. But if you mean California accent as in like a Western accent, then or is definitely does not start with ah in any way, shape, or form. The only time I hear that is for people maybe from the Midwest. Now that I actually hear it, the people around me speaking who are like from California, I've never heard any of them say or starting with ah. Um, Also, you just said song, not song. Another thing I noticed that almost everyone uses the unmerged sound. What? The Midwestern oi sounds weird. It does, because it's oi. Sounds kind of Australian to me, though. Oi. Anyway, I don't know what you mean with song. I mean, I guess if you notice I said something. As I said, sometimes people with the Cockout merger will unmerge without noticing it. So you're saying I said song? So weird to do that. Anyway, but some people might use the only one O for all three sounds. Go, gore, boy. Like I do. Go, gore, boy. And that I think most people in Western American English do as well. David, that's definitely the case. I noticed that before too. Talking about high schwa reducing to schwa. Or talking to responding to forlornness. I'm so lost. That's okay. Linguists transcribing oi as oi is literally one of the biggest pet peeves. I know. I hate it. I hate it. Um, that's not how the sounds how it sounds how the sound how the sound sounds at all. I missed the second sound. um, Literally all Americans use monophthong version of O for the first vowel. I don't know about that. No, I would disagree with that. Um, I would very much disagree with that. I know I'm behind in the comments, so these were stated a while ago. But as I've said several times now, many people, especially not from Western Americans, seem to use aw as the start of oi. So in terms of using IPA, which I already don't like to do in the first place, but in terms of using IPA and transcribing it like that, if you base it on more of a Midwestern or possibly Eastern accent, because I think New Yorkers also do that too, then it would technically be accurate. But based on the way I teach you guys, the way that I speak, no. Okay. Some people from LA and generally SoCal have the surfer accent or whatnot, like oo becomes so they sound, or so becomes so they sound. Yeah, if you just write oo without a word, a native speaker is not going to have any idea how to say that. Is it oo? Is it o? But in the context, I know okay, it's so they sound. They say or pronounce book as buck. Some of the words, not all of them, though. Perhaps I don't know. I don't really know anybody who speaks with more of the surfer accent. Um, I mean, I've heard it mostly in movies. Like I'm from Southern California, and I don't hear that like hardly ever. Which should give you an idea of really how specific the California accent is compared to general American or the Western American general American thing. Western, okay. IPA is trash day. Forget it. Exactly. Forget the IPA. Okay, good. Yes. So they say. Yes, we can say there as well. Say book is buck. Ahmet. So David says to Ahmet, I believe so too. Like a very quick, like in an unstressed but. What was the last thing Ahmet said? Okay. Yeah, that was attached to the thing that I lost track of. Okay, good. For lordness. I know I gave up on trying to understand the logic behind it. Oh, the IPA, yeah. See, there's a reason I tell you guys not to worry about the IPA. It's your choice, but I think it's very problematic. Of course, I'm biased because I'm trying to teach you uh, in a way that does have some differences, whether that's the big/slight differences in Western American compared to General American, which the IPA is based on, like Midwestern General American. But also because I also give you guys some hacks, and I try to be very transparent and tell you guys if this is a hack or if it's how, the way that I speak directly, which usually it's the way I speak anyway. Um, and so obviously if I'm giving you a hack, you're not going to see that transcribed that way in the IPA. So at least I am sure that they don't flare their lips as much. Poor Josh. Yes, poor me. I know. Uh, for various reasons. Got to filter out all the trashy questions with mods. Well, I don't think there's really any trashy questions. We don't really have any spammers here yet, or trolls yet. Okay. Thanks for the time reference, David. Now that I've approved your message, I've just noticed we're 98 minutes into the live stream and the cat still hasn't appeared. 98 minutes. Let's see. That's an hour and 38, and now we're at 2 hours and 25. So that's how far behind I am. Just for the record, we got to donate to Josh now, so questions get priority now. He slowly becomes a true streamer. Well, yeah, I know. Once I'm officially monetized, I hit the 1,000 subscribers, which is one threshold. I also need 4,000 hours of watch time, and I'm at 2.5 thousand. Once I hit that threshold, I'm pretty sure I become I become monetizable, which I believe brings super chat. So that's definitely going to help. I'm still going to try to get to everybody's questions, but obviously if, there are super chat messages, I have to get to those no matter what. So, hello, person with an Arabic name. I assume it's Arabic. If not, I apologize. It's been a while, and I don't know if you're still here, but hello. Feel free to ask questions, and I will get to them at some point in the future. Steve, are this and that interchangeable in this case? It's not true. Or sorry, it's not true. Why did I say true? It's not that hard. It's not this hard. No, absolutely not. Normally, we're going to say that. That's more common. My drink is warm. That sucks. I gotta take off my sweater. It's getting hot in here. It's getting. I can't even speak. It's getting hot in here. So take off your sweater, not all your clothes, because this is a family-friendly public stream. Anyway, that's my rendition of Usher. 1 second. Don't you love how I leave you in suspense? Not only have I taken forever to get to your question, but then I decide to strip halfway through, so I don't even finish answering. If you say it's not this hard, that's possible, but that sounds it's not this hard. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a clear context to give you. I'd have to sort of set it up and explain it. But technically, you probably will hear that at some point. But saying it's not that hard is going to be exponentially more common. And that's what you're going to hear in almost all cases. So they're definitely not interchangeable, no. There are some cases I know, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I've noticed some cases in the past where this and that are pretty much interchangeable. But obviously, usually this is this, that is that. And so they have their own functions. Usually they're not interchangeable in most cases anyway. Okay, if you want to hear more of that Buck Book thing, go find I assume that's a Polish name based on my experience, but that could be wrong. Nastasia. On YouTube, she has the weird California accent. Okay, I'll look that up. Maybe. if I remember. Thank you. Damn, you know everyone's accent around here. Apparently. um, it's not this hard. Sounds like a comparison to something. Yeah, it kind of sounds more like a comparison in a way. Um, I usually listen to my recording to hear all the mistakes and most outstanding things while I'm practicing. I don't really send it over to anyone. I only ask my friends once a week if they hear any changes. Yeah, okay, so if you're recording yourself, that's good. Um, I don't want to give a blanket statement here, but I'm going to. Everybody's a little bit different. As I said, talent is a bit of a factor. But even with that, generally speaking, so okay, you say I don't really send it over to anyone. I only ask my friends once a week if they hear any changes. That's probably not going to be very good. You're going to need a little bit more direct feedback, maybe a little bit more consistent feedback. Again, even if you're just paying like a cheap tutor on italki for informal tutoring so that they can, give you some feedback on how you sound, like a 30-minute class where you have some sentences that you've been working on and you say, how am I saying this? Do I have the proper stress? Am I hitting the proper sounds? Um, and ask them to be like, as honest and brutal as they can be, because of course, some natives, well, a lot of natives were going to be like, oh, hey, you sound great, blah, blah, blah. But if your goal is to really hit the sound, you need the accurate feedback. And so they need to be aware of that. But you're going to need probably a little bit more than that, I would say. What is your native language for lordness? Amit asks. Amit also says Matt vs. Japan has a video about shadowing. You can check him out. Yeah, Matt vs. That sounds vaguely familiar. I think I saw something from him before. Now that you mention it, yeah, it actually might have been the shadowing video. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, good. Another suggestion for shadowing. Uh, funny way. Oh my god, the chat just scrolled down. I lost my spot. Okay. Funny way you say catch. It sounds like an eh. Yes, because it is an eh. Catch is the way that many people say it, but I don't know if it's a Western American thing or what. I think it is a Western American thing. Um, for some reason, there's a couple words, like it's not like a general change, I don't think, but there's some words like catch that actually we changed the vowel for some reason. I don't know why. If we're really like super enunciating, like I say, hey, catch, I might go into ah, but most likely I'm going to keep it eh. It's just the way that we say it. It's kind of, well, it's not similar, but in my mind they're kind of related. Like carry, or see, I can't even do it. Carry, or marry instead of marry. Carry the name, carry, Kerry. The way I speak, Carry and Marry are pronounced with air, the R colored eh. And it's a similar thing happening here. Catch instead of the fourth vowel, it's eh. It's not reducing. It's shifting up to the third vowel. I was going to say that I talked about that with my linguist friends, and they confirmed that that's a one-off change that natives deviate from the ash vowel. I assume ash is the fourth vowel. Usually I hear it seen as the cat vowel. So I'm going to assume that that's the same one. I've never seen anybody call it the ash vowel, but that's the fourth vowel. See, that's why I call it the fourth vowel. I give it a number so we always know what we're talking about. Okay. Yeah, so, well, as Amit said, I guess, yeah, it's a one-off. So it's not like a categorical vowel shift change in dialect. Catch instead of catch, exactly. Some people say back as neck. You mean as Beck? I don't think we changed the B to an N. That's a typo for sure. Some people say back as Beck. Beck. Have to give it back. Give it back. Give it back. Yeah, I don't think I really do that. Maybe in really fast, lazy speech, potentially, like we were talking about man becoming men or bad becoming bed, possibly kind of, but yeah, normally no. not the way that I speak, at least. Simply Seth is the guy who made the Cal accent tag. Oh, Simply Seth. Okay. Finally caught up to that. um, Simply, yeah, see, that would have been nice because I'm not. Oh, Simply Seth, the California accent challenge. I guess this is it. Um, yeah, I'm generally much more interested in like foreign accents than like my own native language accents. So I don't put too much too much work into that, but it's cool. And actually, I have an idea for you guys. I'll go ahead and mention this as I try to catch up with the comments. I want to do. I don't know when I'm going to do this necessarily. It's just kind of an idea, and I would need some people to help me with this. So maybe some people can help me. If you're a Spanish speaker or a Portuguese speaker, sorry, you can't help me. um, for this challenge. Even if you're a Japanese speaker, maybe a Japanese speaker for the pitch accent. But my idea, I've been trying to think of a good shadowing video, like shadowing sort of demonstration type thing of the way that like kind of I do it, and to give you guys like a hands-on like view instead of just me describing it or explaining it. And I have I think it's a two-part basic little video series, like it's just 1 minute each from TikTok that I posted on here, talking about how to shadow the basics. But I want to do a video where, say, 3 languages that I know nothing or almost nothing about in terms of the pronunciation, um, have a phrase, probably like the same phrase just translated, have a phrase in each of those languages, just a short little, phrase or a couple words, and then work, like all this would be recorded where, say, if it's like Russian, I get on Skype with a Russian speaker. They, translate the phrase. And I would, show you guys like how I make my micro adjustments, how I'm, going through the process of trying to match what I hear them saying. Look up the Russian vowel chart so I can get a visual and see, how I use that, and, all the stuff that I try to teach you guys, but you'd actually see how I would go through it, for just like an example phrase, and then do that over, say, 2 or 3 languages. Um, and then in addition, a bonus, I want to do it also in Australian, where like I try to, at least for one phrase, master an Australian accent. I wouldn't be working with an Australian for that because I wouldn't need it. But I would, just like take the clip and I can adjust to it. But that way you guys can actually have more of a direct example of, sort of the ways that I do it, and also how I kind of do it on the fly. Because when I'm doing pronunciation, um, if I start a language, I first go to the pronunciation. I look up all the basic sounds. I see what sounds there are. I listen to explanations of them, usually the Pod 101 or Class 101, like German Pod 101, Spanish Pod 101. Those are really good resources for that. And then, so I'll listen to like the podcast episodes for the basic sounds and how they talk about that and how they make the sound and this and that. And I'll sort of like try to master what I can, take note of the ones that are difficult, practice those extra later, and I'll just always be playing with the sounds throughout the day. So I don't always just sit down and like, practice, oh, this sound, like, how do I do this? Like, I'm always like playing with it in my mouth. I even do that in English too. Like if I hear somebody with like a different accent or a slightly different accent, and I'm like, oh, how they said something really stood out to me, I might just like immediately just play with my mouth on the spot and try to match how they sound in English. So, um, my favorite part is about that book passage and a few others. Yeah, I'll watch that a little later. Lawyer for fire, far for fire. Yeah, that seems weird. You suck at New York accent. Yeah, I know I do. um, it's because I haven't tried to master it. I'm just trying to go off of what I've heard, without actually any effort of really trying to produce a New York accent. My friend has the Cockout merger, Northern Cities shift. He's from Missouri. Interesting. Yeah, see, that can happen too. Like it sounds like an ah, just 2 different ahs. Interesting. So yeah, that's more variation. There's all kinds of little like more minor regional variations as well. So I thought Josh did a good job at the New York accent. I just like saying coffee. I don't know why. I guess it's just difficult to make it sound realistic unless like an imitation. A lot of young people in New York no longer speak like that. Yeah, yeah, there's so much diversity and whatever in New York. Um, so many like people from different places that like I assume like as like through each successful younger generation, it kind of maybe melds away from the previous because there's just like so much more like flavor being added into the pot. Um, so that makes sense. They sound general but don't sound Midwest, and their ahs are still clear and crisp. Yeah. Guess Josh knows his onions. I love onions, which, by the way, there's two ways to say onions. You can say onions with or you can say onions with an n in the front. I use both. Um, if he's that good, maybe I don't know. You still make us like an American. Who me? I would hope so. I am an American. Message retracted. Smiley face. That's a dead giveaway. Got to use Mexican or native like. Oh, I see. For the yeah, for the Spanish. See, that was a while ago. Yes, and I know that that's actually a problem that I wasn't aware of at first, that I became aware of later. Um, like with gusta, me gusta. Um, if I'm not paying attention to it, I'll say me gusta, me gusta. Because so anything that like ends with an A like that, um, cerveza, cerveza. I'll use a schwa because again, I had no idea what I was doing. um, and even with talent, I had no direction. So there were some details that slipped through the cracks, and things that I didn't notice, and that my Spanish partners didn't point out to me for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't notice it, um, or maybe it was such a small point that they didn't think to point it out. So I know that's a problem that's a fossil that I have, which I can fix, but that takes extra work to fix fossils, and so you know if I improve my Spanish in the future, which I kind of want to, but eh. um, I might touch up my pronunciation and try to really make it sound 100% like a native. But yeah, uh, see the one thing though, at least I don't say because I know Mexicans like to do this. They like to imitate the American accent in Spanish, and they'll say like what was it? Uh, Quiero un burrito con queso, por favor. Like that bugs me like a lot. Like whenever I hear, I mean, it is what it is. I don't want to judge anybody because they're speaking with a thick English accent in another language, but you could at least take the time, a little bit of time, to make some effort. At least for the R, like you could do a single tap R, like quiero, burrito. Well, burrito is supposed to be two. I mean, in English we say burrito. That's just how we say it. So I mean, I guess okay, fine. But quiero, por favor, like you can at least say it. You can tap it. It's not that hard to tap one time. It's really not that hard. Por favor. Okay, so it bugs me. I hate when I hear that. But it is what it is. Whatever. Josh is basically a Mexican immigrant that left Mexico at a very young age, but retained his first language, even though he now mostly uses English. Good one. I always wanted to make this joke. Jose Moore. Or see, so when I was in high school, the lunch ladies were Spanish speakers, and I don't think they really spoke a lot of English. I mean, they spoke enough to kind of communicate, but they had these very thick accents and everything. And whenever they would say my name, they would say Joshua, Joshua, because it's J-O, so the J in Spanish is ho, or it was h. So Joshua. Um, so it would be Joshua, Joshua More, Joshua More, More. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, cool. I guess I'm from Mexico now. I didn't know that. What is the difference? when you say, oh, Carlos Santiago Bolaños. Sorry it took so long to get to your question. I think this is the first time you're commenting, maybe. But thank you for the question. What is the difference when you say native like a native pronunciation? Very good question. These terms are kind of thrown around, and to an extent they can be used maybe a little interchangeably sometimes. But native would probably be like perfect, like 100%. Like you sound like you're a native. Like you would fool somebody if they heard you speaking like that. Like you must be native because you sound like you're from a country that speaks that language. Where native like, that's kind of I don't know, an unclear term because some people interpret that to mean you sound like a native, exactly like a native. It's just that you weren't born there. You didn't, grow up speaking that language, and so you can accurately mimic a native accent, but you're not a native speaker. And other people interpret that to mean, well, it's extremely similar to native. Maybe it's not 100% perfect, but it might fool somebody at least for a certain period of time. Like they wouldn't guess that you're not a native unless maybe you speak enough and they start catching little details. That's how I usually use native like. I think that's how most people use native like. I also use the term close to a native or almost native like to mean like it's very, very, very close to a native. But native like is when you try to sound like a native. Native is like when you're born and raised. That's basically what I was saying, more or less. So native like is pretty close, like 98 to 98%, maybe 98 to 100%, 98 to 99% probably. But there are still some giveaways of him being a non-native. Native is like 100%, just like a native, exactly. But remember, you can't be a native unless born and raised with that language. Exactly. That would be close to a native, like if it's 98%. No, that's arbitrary. It's not set in stone, dude. I don't mean I mean the oh. See, now we're all the conversations are mixing. I don't know what's going on anymore. I'm so confused. I'm lost. I'm lost in the chat. Am I almost caught up now, or is the YouTube bar lying to me? Oh my god, I'm almost caught up. Yay. Okay, so yeah, as I said, these terms sometimes people mean slightly different things. The point is, I try to be clear when, like, if I'm saying if you want to develop a native accent, like a perfect 100% perfect accent, I try to say it that way and make it very, very clear. I might use native like or like a native meaning the same thing sometimes. Is, as I said, it's kind of a gray term. But either way, we'll say 98 to 100% it covers the area. The point is, it's better than not. Okay, let's see. Another message retracted. That's fine. Okay, so for learners, so I don't mean ah, I mean the O, just lower, like in caught for Midwesterners. O, lower, O, like all, kind of. I don't know. I have no idea what that means. Not this hard only works like not this hard, like stress. I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that. That has nothing to do with it. I mean, that could be a detail, but that's not going to be the difference between why we might use this or that. Remember, because English is stress timed, the use, not always, but very commonly, the use of added emphasis um, is it doesn't, how do I want to say that? It doesn't necessarily add to, I don't want to say the meaning because it can very much be tied to the meaning. It doesn't necessarily add to choice of words. We'll say that, or like the difference between words. In the sense, not in the sense of like meaning, like if you're stressing this versus that, but in the sense of like in this case, like can this and that be interchangeable? The stress isn't going to make it interchangeable or not, or just because you stress it means that you can use this. Like that doesn't, the stress doesn't make it usable in that case. So it doesn't affect anything like that. Can you speak Yorkshire or Yorkshire? That's advanced level. John's illustrations. Well, hello, John. So, okay, and then we have a Bible verse. Interesting. Yorkshire. I've heard it pronounced Yorkshire sometimes. Usually, I will either say Yorkshire because I see Shire, or Yorkshire with an Those are the two ways I usually say it, whichever one comes out. But yeah, I've heard Yorkshire also. Um, Again, I mean that's really a British word. Like I don't think there's any place in the United States called Yorkshire, whatever. So Americans don't really know how to say it in the first place. Um, but anyway, okay. Well, thank you for the Bible verse, John. um, and no, I cannot speak with a Yorkshire accent. I don't even know what a Yorkshire accent specifically is. Um, I know RP, which I can't do all that well. I can try to mimic it, and then I know Cockney, which I know also has variations, but I also can't do that very well either. I know in Britain there's actually a bunch of dialectical variation. There's a ton of dialectical variation throughout the country. You wouldn't expect on just this little island, but there's a lot. um, let's see here. Oh, okay. So we're analyzing the Bible verse in like a Yorkshire accent. Okay. Anyway, Ahmet, hi Josh. You know what? I'm actually really satisfied with my accent, and I'll stop researching phonology, phonetics, etc., because it's become an obsession over the years. I'll stop watching videos too. So I wanted to thank you for answering my questions. I'll still support you on Patreon though, because you put a lot of effort into your channel, and hope you'll reach the subscriber count that you desire. Thanks for everything. No problem. Yeah, cool. Well, I definitely appreciate the continued support on Patreon. That helps a lot. But yeah, we all have our own individual journey. Um, and if you're satisfied with your accent, you're satisfied with your accent. That's perfectly fine. As I said, your pronunciation in a language is 100% up to you. 100%. There are people who don't care about pronunciation at all. They just want people to understand them. In fact, there's some people who don't even care about that. They're just like, I'm going to say these words in English, and if people can't understand me, that's their problem. And so they speak with this really thick accent, and nobody can understand them, and somehow they get through life. And that's kind of annoying, but that's fine. That's their choice. They're still trying to communicate in English. Okay. So all the way from very raw, like no attempt at sounding like that language at all. You're just sort of saying words in that language, all the way up to trying to sound exactly 100% like a native, and everything in between. And then, of course, borrowing, from this dialect and that dialect, you can mix and match things as well. So, that's everything. And once you get to a point where you think you're done, you're done. That's it. Once you're satisfied, you're satisfied. Like I'm mostly satisfied with my Spanish pronunciation. I'll probably never fix the schwa sound problem. The R, as I said, I might go back because I can use it also in other languages, but I'm pretty content with my Spanish pronunciation. So, it is what it is. Glad I could help. Standard Northern England accent is like drop all the R's, get the O's going in cot, and use the good sound instead of schwas. Yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah, you finally kind of. Yeah, I stopped spamming because tired too. This is for lordness's fault. I need to go to bed, so good night, y'all. Also, free Britney and hush one more. Yeah, so free Brad. Is something going on with Britney Spears again? Because I know there's some big documentary or something. I heard something about that. I have no idea what's going on though. It's pop culture. I don't pay attention to it. But yes, hashtag hush one more. Yes. I am now a hashtag. Make it up to you. Guess we're calling it here. Yeah, it's been almost 3 hours. And if I finally caught up, I mean, I guess you guys are done. So, um, anyway, okay. Well, then, I don't know. Nothing else. I'll give anybody else who's here a chance to ask a question before I end the stream, but we're probably pretty much done. So thank you, everybody. Good night to people who are going to sleep. Good morning to people who just woke up. And yeah, I'm not seeing any questions. So thank you very much. I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to try to put the next one a little earlier because I've been doing it kind of a little bit later. Today we started at 12:30. I'll maybe try to start at like 10:30 or something. So hopefully that'll help some people. But anyway, I will see you guys on next week.